Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. What's up, guys? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's a Thursday morning, and hopefully, you guys are having a good week. And yeah, we get a chance to hang out for a little bit and do what we usually do as a community. Um, One thing I wanted to touch upon today as well is talking about the best and worst of horror in 2022. Um, Hopefully, it's more best than worst, but also getting you guys' opinions on some movies too. We did some polls, and I want to make sure that we touch upon some of the polls that we've done on the community posts. Some really interesting comments left by you guys. But let's start off and see who we have in the chat, and we will get going. Let's see. We got Phillips in the chat. What's going on? All right, good to see you. And for some of you guys, you guys were up with us last night with our Stephen King watch party. That was a lot of fun. Phillips saying, "Hey, night, hey everyone, what's going on?" The general's in the chat saying good morning, and I haven't even gone through the whole live chat, and I'm pretty sure that she also has the rules listed for everyone to make sure they don't mess up. You guys know the rules. If you don't follow them, you know what's going to happen.
Fuck! Oh, well, that's it, isn't it? It's over! You motherfucker!
That's the stupidest fucking thing I ever heard.
There it is. There it is. What's up, Jen? Jen's in the chat. All right. And Denisha. You guys are all right. You guys are all right. What's up, Jason? I hope you're having an awesome morning too. Seriously. Thank you so much. Yeah, make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, also hitting the notification bell. We've been talking about that a lot lately on live streams. So definitely make sure you guys do that. That way you know when we're live. We have a lot of times people, although some people say that the notification bell don't always notify them in a timely fashion. So that's a whole nother story. But um, it definitely give you guys more opportunity to catch us when we're live. We have so many people. Sometimes they'll come to the streams right at the end, and they'll say, "What did I miss?" "Well, you missed everything, but you could check the replay, of course. So let's see. Jason's in the chat. What's going on, Jason? And Extron, what's going on? What's going on? And thank you, Jen. Thank you for reminding people to hit that like button. Yeah. Li- My man, Strange Monkey, what's up, bro? Right on time. Morning, everyone. Hope you're doing good, man. Hope you're doing good. Good to see you. And look at this. We got Monty's in the chat too. Two of my guys from our Deadly Venoms streams. Hopefully, we'll be doing that soon. I miss you guys a lot and all the laughter and fun that we have together. But hope both you guys are doing well. I know we talk on social media too, but just hoping you guys are doing well and having a great holiday with the fams. All right. You guys gave me a big smile. That's awesome. Gina's in the chat. What's up, Gina? All right. Very cool to see you, Gina. Kale's in the chat. All right. What's up? What's up? Very good to see you. Monty saying David Tennant is back as the doctor. For real. Wow. All right. That is cool. Monty, I didn't know you were a Doctor Who fan like that. That's cool, man. We'll have to talk about that. All right. What's up? That sounded scary's in the chat. What's going on? I made it. Yes, you did. Strange monkey, follow the rules or you're off the carousel. It's true. It's true, man. Monty saying doing well night. Good, man. I'm glad to hear that. Seriously. Very glad to hear it. Jason saying, so disappointed to have missed the Stephen King watch party last night. Wasn't able to get a hold of a copy of the film. Can't afford Prime. That movie gave me nightmares when I was a kid. Awesome. I know what you mean. When you talk about Salem's Lot, man, we had a blast last night. And again, shout out to the panel. We had Neil from Neon Black Reviews and Steven from Craven Something Scary. We had a blast, man. That was a great old school horror movie. So, but yeah, but Jason, you could check out, the replay. when you do get a copy of it or what have you. I thought that someone said that they found it on uh, maybe Pluto. I don't know if someone had said that in the live chat, but it might pop up somewhere. But sorry you missed it. Sometimes that happens. But we do have we've got a good one for next week. We obviously spin the wheel at the end of the live stream, so we've got a good one for next week. A personal favorite of mine. So keep your eyes out. I'll be putting the link up for the next Stephen King watch party for next Wednesday. And by the way, for you guys, if you do get the chance, when you're on the channel page, definitely check out what we got upcoming and give it a like. That definitely helps out too, just to remind people for that. But one thing I wanted to do when we talk about the best and worst of horror for 2022, maybe I worded that wrong. Let's just talk about the horror movies that came out in 2022 and then we make a decision on that. But before we do that, I had asked on our polls what people thought about horror from back in the day, and I wanted to touch upon that for a quick second. And and by the way, Philip saying it was fun. I wish I got there soon, even though I didn't have it. Yeah, and that's the other thing too, guys. Just to say, for watch-alongs or for watch parties, the way I look at it, or at least the way that I do it here on my channel is, we do watch the movie, and there is a balancing act to it, but we also, we talk about the movie. We have commentary, and actually last night in the watch party stream, we had a nice little side conversation that we had about remakes and just kind of the state of horror. So there's always some good stuff like that that goes on with watch parties. Um, and also the conversations that you guys have with each other is a very lively chat. So definitely, if you don't have the movie for, specific watch parties, we do. I get it. That's kind of a little bit of a bummer, but you can still have some fun. And we're still there communicating with you guys that are there in the live chat. And we always appreciate you guys hanging out with us. So, it's a hangout session as well. Michael, what is up, man? What is up? Are you at work, bro? What is going on? It's good to see you though, man. You surprised me with that. Hope you're doing good, man. Um, oh, Kale's a Doctor Who fan too. All right. Wow. I didn't know. Listen, I mean, hey, you guys know me. I love a lot of stuff, and especially Killian, he's a huge Doctor Who fan too. So who knows? Maybe we'll start doing a few Doctor Who discussions. So thank you, Jason. I appreciate giving the like. Seriously, I appreciate that. Um, Sounded Scary saying, "Hey, Knight, I'm recommending a movie for you to watch. It's called Circle." Oh, I know that movie. Julie Benz is in that movie, and I believe it's on Netflix. You will enjoy it. Dude, I love that movie. It's funny you say that because that's one of those movies a lot of people don't know about. And me and my brother, especially, we discovered it, and we had some really good conversations about it. I mean, like good enough that we should have done them on a live stream, but this was before, I even had this channel. But yeah, that's a good one. That is the one I'm thinking of. I'm thinking about, right? Let's not spoil it in the chat, but it's got Julie Benz in it. You got the people that are standing around, and I won't say much more. But yeah, yeah. Michael saying I'm off today. Well, wow, that's awesome, man. Man, let me know. Let me know if you want to jump on here, man. I wanted to talk about some horror for this year, what people thought of it. I had some polls that I put up on the channel, and referencing some of the comments. But let me know if you want to jump on too, man. Always good to have you around. I'm glad you have the day off. I know how that is. You got to catch up on that rest. Yeah. They need to make a sequel. Yes, people wake up in a room. Yep, I know exactly. I love that movie too, man. I love it. It's a good one. Ronan, what's up? What's up? Good to see you. Ronan was with us last night, enjoying Salem's Lot, old school. You know, Jen saying this is not a movie, nor is it horror per se, but I just started watching Manifest. It's awesome. Yeah, that TV show, right? Now I haven't seen it, but I've heard good things about it. I've seen the commercials. It does look like something that I would like to watch. First thing I thought of when I saw the commercial for it, I was thinking of Lost, which is another, you know, um, favorite of mine. hopefully, there's a lot of things that I want to do as far as discussions and episodes and videos and live streams and stuff like that. But I'm a huge fan of Lost, and so is my brother. So maybe someday we can do some talking about that. We'll see. You never know. Monty saying would love to jump on, but I'm working. Oh man, well that's okay. Well, I know you work during the day, but yeah, man, that would be cool if you were able to. We'll have to do something soon, man. I know we've been waiting to do our Venoms live stream, and that will be hopefully soon. So yeah, man, we gotta hook up. It's been a long time. Kyle, what's up? Good to see you. Saying good morning. All right. Mega Giants in the chat. All right. We're getting the whole crew together. And speaking of getting the whole crew together, last night and Tuesday night, if you guys have been around, we had some really fantastic live streams and collaborations. Me and obviously my good friend Steven from Craving Something Scary, we had a double watch party on Tuesday, which was really cool. And we hadn't been able to do something like that in a little while. For some of you guys that had spent time with us late at night on our watch parties, you know how crazy and fun those get. And no one's more saddened that we haven't been able to kind of do that as much recently than me and Steven. So it was cool on Tuesday night to have two back-to-back watch parties, celebrating, members and supporters and so forth. And then, of course, last night we had our Salem's Lot watch party, which was great. And Stephen was able to jump on the panel with me and Neil. And tonight, I might as well put this out here. As far as I know, it's still going to happen on the Movie Bros Reacts channel. Stephen and Michael, Carbonite Jedi, they're going to be doing a watch party, which is going to be a really cool one, the sequel to Knives Out. And Coriander and myself will be on the panel as far as we've planned. So definitely check that out tonight. That's going to be fun. I can't wait to see that movie. I haven't seen it yet, heard nothing but great things about it. So yeah, it's going to be fun. Jason saying finally got around to see American Psycho 2. Ooh, silly movie, but had a lot of fun. I can agree with that. I can agree. Yeah. Ronan saying coffee time. Right? Man, got mine right here. It's no joke. A slasher movie club special. I know I've shown this off before, but a wonderful present that the general sent. And once again, thank you, Val. I use it quite a lot. Denise is saying, is there any news on the new Final Destination? Nothing that I've heard recently. I am keeping my eyes out. Denisha, I'm a huge fan. All of us here, Coriander and Killian, we're huge fans of the franchise. The only thing that I've heard is that it's looking like it's going to happen. It's supposed to be sometime this year. I haven't heard a specific date. It's going to center around first responders as far as the incident and so forth. So I'm excited. I'm excited. Jen saying that Fate did a video on it. Okay. All right. Thanks, Jen. All right. Michael, give me about 10 minutes. All right, man. That's awesome, man. I'll send you the link on Insta. That's awesome. Jason saying Tuesday was awesome. Thank you so much. JT is in the chat. What's up, man? Saying what's up, everybody. Horror Boy is representing. And I know I said this, I think I said it last night, JT, but seriously, man, that conversation that you guys had, just talking about the state of horror and where it needs to go and so forth. And, we need these new icons and so forth. I agree with you, man. I totally agree with you. I think that's a conversation um, to continue, maybe even have a part two to that, because it's very relevant now. I think we're at that point, and you guys probably can put two and two together. We're at that point where we have a lot of our icons and the actors that have portrayed these icons. We're getting to that point where it's just not going to be feasible for them to do it. So yeah, a great discussion. Denisha representing the podcast. You're all right. You are all right. Oh man, very cool. Ronan saying Salem's Lot was really great. I'm going to rewatch it before my rental expires. I'm sure there's a few things I missed with it being 3 hours, but sometimes I like those longer movies. Yeah, yeah, man. It's listen. It's from a different time, where filmmakers, in particular, this is Toby Hooper, the late great Toby Hooper that directed it. They let things play out, you know. They let things take their time. It's not just super intensity every 3 minutes or jump scares every 3 minutes. And I can really appreciate that. And so, anyways, glad you liked it as a first watch. It's a great movie, in my opinion. Val, yes, I love the cup. I really do. And Gina, let me just say, all you guys are fantastic, but I got to give shout outs when I can. Gina is literally going through our past videos. She went through the Friday playlist, Friday 13th playlist, the Halloween playlist, going through our slasher movie club videos, which there's easily 70 of those. Gina, you were all right. We really appreciate that. As a lot of you guys know, we spend a lot of time, every discussion, is usually a good, 45 minutes or longer discussion, a lot of prep that goes into that, a lot of hard work that's gone into that. It's great to see the old stuff being, watched because we had a lot of fun with it. And we're glad you did too, or do too. So thank you, Gina. Gina, let me play this for you because it just warms my heart. It really does. And I know it does for Coriander as well. This one's for you, Gina.
And you don't stop, sure shot, go out to the parking lot. And you get in your car and you drive real far and you drive all night. Then you sit to cheek, one to one, man to man, dance toe to toe. Don't move too slow, cause the man from Mars is through with cars.
There it is. There it is. Thank you so much. Seriously. Monty, not a fan of American Psycho 2. Oh my God. Yeah, yeah. Val, working hard as always. The link for the watch party tonight for Glass Onion, which is the sequel to Knives Out, which is going to be on the Movie Brothers React channel with Craven Something Scary and the Carbonite Jedi. There's the link there. it- Let me throw this out there too. And Val and Jen and Denisha, you guys, if you guys can remind people of this too, because I was just talking to another good friend, another content creator, and he was talking about this. Is something that I don't mention enough. But with this link, if you guys are able to click the link, go over there right now, give that video a like. And when they start the watch party tonight, they'll already be ahead of the game. And that's true. And I don't want to speak for any other channel, but I can speak for my channel. Usually I try to have videos up, at least a day in advance, sometimes several days in advance. But, when you come to the channel and if you're watching a video, feel free to check out, the links for those upcoming episodes and hit the like. It really helps out a lot. Puts the channel in a good position for the video to do well, which is always a good thing. Yeah. Jen saying, JT, I really enjoyed it last night and have subscribed to your channel. Very cool. Very cool. JT is awesome. Definitely check out the Horror Boys. And Jen, you probably would like, and I think it's the latest live stream that they have where they were talking about just the state of horror and horror icons and moving forward, moving on, and so forth. I think you'll like that video. It's really, really cool. A lot of fun. Let's see. And I just want to catch with you guys. You guys know how this goes. Definitely going to be trying to keep up with you guys, but it is challenging. Um, Jason saying Salem's Lot and the original The Stand were both different times, but I love them being long. Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. Extron saying Yo Night is Final Destination 3, 4, and 5 good. I've only seen the first two. Well, Extron, check out our Final Destination playlist, which is one of our main playlists. And we went through the whole franchise, each movie, all five, plus we did a ranking. Check those out, man, and you'll get a sense of them. If you want to watch them. Me personally, I love the franchise. So yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, JT, you might be on the panel tonight. Nice. Then that's going to be fun, man. It's going to be fun. And it's a really, it's a movie that I think can be a lot of fun when you talk about murder mysteries, whodunits and stuff like that. Yes. Glass Onion. It is on Netflix. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, farewell to the past episodes. You right? Yes, yes. And Ronan's got the notification turned on. Absolutely. I mean, that definitely helps, and I know sometimes people may not be able to stay for episodes or live streams, but even if you can pop in, hit the like, hang out for a minute or two, it helps. It helps all channels. I don't want to speak for anyone else, but it definitely is something that that I believe in for my channel. So extra on saying, I'll watch your playlist. I just wanted to know because I enjoyed the first two. Yeah. Yeah. I think if you enjoyed the first two, you'll enjoy the other three. Absolutely. No doubt. But yeah, yeah, check out the playlist. That's why and again, we've talked about this a little bit on the Thursday morning streams because like Thursday morning streams is kind of like a hodgepodge. We talk about a lot of different things, behind the scenes stuff, channels, channel news, channel announcements, stuff like that. But trust me, guys, sometimes it can be difficult to put together playlists, especially if you have a lot of videos. Obviously, like I have, but I put those together so it's easy for people to find certain things, certain topics. So, if you're looking to watch something on Halloween, I've got a Halloween playlist with like, I don't even know, 100 videos. I don't even know. Friday 13th, Final Destination, Phantasm, top 10 rankings, all those types, the Slasher Movie Club, Monster Fridays, watch parties. So definitely check those out, guys. It definitely helps out the channel, and hopefully it gives you guys an easier way to find videos. Okay. All right, Michael. Cool, man. I'll send you the link. Ben's in the chat. It's almost 2023, right? Yeah. Yeah, man. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And thank you, Val. The link for Final Destination. Thank you. I appreciate that. Helps out a lot. Now, what I want to do real quick too, and we'll get Michael on in a couple minutes, but I wanted to touch base as I send him the link here. I wanted to touch base on some of the polls that we did and kind of segue into the movies that have come out this year, because I think that'd be an interesting conversation to have. Now, inevitably, the question is always, um, for horror in the past, what are some of, our favorite movies, but also maybe our favorite time period? And so that was one thing that I put up as a poll, and I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about because we had some votes and all that type of stuff. So let me just put that up real quick directly on the page. Yeah, here we go. Now I know that this was a tough one for people to answer. And, a couple of you guys are like, man, this is a tough one. But hey, that's what we do. So I put up a poll, and the big thing I wanted to know is what you guys thought of the different decades for horror. And I wanted to get a sense of what people thought, what their favorite time periods were, and so forth. And I wanted to shout out a few comments and so forth. In this poll, we had almost 200 votes. I was actually surprised that it wasn't more, but as you guys can see, um, we've got the 80s running away with 71%, because I said, what is the best decade of horror, and why? um, and so the 80s has run away with it unless things change. Sometimes these polls, they take a couple days to go further, because I just put this poll up yesterday. But the 80s are at 71%, followed by the 70s at 12, and then we've got the 90s at 9, which that surprised me as well. And then the 2000s at 5%, and the 2010s at 4%. So I was really, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of interested to see what people were going to say. Um, I had a feeling the 80s were going to win, but you never know. You never know with these types of polls. But I wanted to pull up some of the comments and see what you guys said specifically. And we've got Matt, who said the 80s had it all: good movies, great music, great television shows. Too bad I was born in 81 and didn't really get to fully experience it, but I've gone back and actually took most of it in. We will always have the 80s. Yes, yes, it's true. And I can agree with a lot of what Matt said. We got JT, our own JT himself, saying definitely the 80s. TCM changed horror. Halloween made it popular, but Friday the 13th kept horror from tanking, and Nightmare on Elm Street made horror pop culture. 80s, hands down. Now, what I like about that comment is, you know, JT gave his answer, but he kind of gave us a reason why. And I have to agree with that statement because you have movies like TCM and The Exorcist that kind of just, you know, it did change horror. You know, obviously before that you had things like Psycho, but you know, it changed horror, and then you had Halloween that totally put it in another gear. But then Friday took it further. You know, Friday really is where the slasher subgenre really got its overdrive. And of course, you have Wes coming in 1984 with Nightmare, and all of a sudden, you know, it was pop culture. You know, Freddy Krueger, pop culture icon, and so forth. So, you know, I really did enjoy that answer when I was reading it yesterday, going through what people were saying, because I think it really shows kind of the legacy of horror through the decades. Even though JT picked the 80s, you know, he referenced the 70s and how it got to this point. So I really like that. Kale also commented saying, "I'm a sucker for those 80s flashy, cheesy, synth-filled horrors, but all decades have great and different feel for the eras of horror." Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Ronan coming in with 80s all day, Friday 13th, The Shining, The Thing, Nightmare, the list goes on. So many great horror movies from franchises from that era. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you just named you, you win. You just named them right there. I mean, it's hard to go against that. And that's not to say that there's some days that I really, I'm really digging the 70s or even the 90s. And for a lot of you guys that are newer to the channel, just to throw this out here, one of uh, one of our earlier videos on this channel, we actually did a top 10 ranking of horror through the decades from the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and 2010s. Um, so there's great movies in each decade, and actually doing those top 10 rankings, and they're early on the channel, like like within like our first 10 videos on the channel. So you got to scroll back, but we also have a playlist for it. Um, Going through rankings like that, it really made me realize how many great movies were in the 90s and the 2000s and 2010s. So, Hatchet Boys also saying the 80s most definitely kept my favorite genre going, the slasher genre. The 80s had so many good horror movies going good and bad, but I love it all. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Bobby Lee, I think horror as we know it be unrecognizable without 80s horror. Even today, we still get horror films that are a throwback to the 80s horror aesthetic. Great answer. Beth from Miss 80s, saying the 80s. And I knew Beth would say that. She's awesome because it's the best decade ever. Love it. Love it. Sergeant Madness, new to the channel, saying I'd say there's a strong argument to be made for the 70s. It's arguable that a few movies like The Exorcist, Halloween, TCM, Jaws, and Black Christmas are better than most 80s horror films. In other words, quality over quantity. That isn't to say the 80s doesn't have heavy hitters, though. Now, that's a great answer, too. And I really dig that, because when you talk about quality, it's a great way to reference, how you pick, which decade is best. And what I'm going to do, we got our good friend Michael from Movies and Beyond, who's coming in the knock at the door, and I want to get his idea on this too, because there's some really good answers here that I think we can have a good discussion on. So let me bring him in. What's up, bro?
How's it going? Good morning, everyone. I still
Good
got
morning.
morning voice. I apologize, everyone. It was a late night last night.
I still got morning voice too, man. How did the watch party go, bro?
Oh, we had a blast, man. I mean, not to get off, your subject that we have going on here, but
Yeah.
we had a blast with that, and I forgot how many cameos and how fun that movie really was.
Right.
We did a watch party for fanboys on my channel last night, and it ran pretty late. But
Mhm.
man, what a blast!
Mm. Hey, man, that's good, man. I wish I could have been there, man, but we were doing our Stephen King, watch party. Matter of fact, Craven Something Scary was on the panel. He was able to jump onto the panel, and he was like, "Yeah, Michael's doing his watch party." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I wanted to be on it." I
That's
was
all
like,
right, man. We had a great time. Um, just wow, yeah. Like I said though, it ran late, especially for me. I'm usually
Mhm.
not a late person, and
Right? I
wow,
know. When you
yeah, I
told
think
me
I
what time it was starting, I was like, "Oh, really?"
yeah, yeah. So I pulled a late night one, and
Nice.
needless to say, I think I fell asleep. I don't know, like 6 hours ago, and I'm
Oh
up and
my
moving
god.
around. So
Too funny, man. Too funny. Well, look, let me catch up to the chat. And this is an interesting thing I put up as a poll, bro. And I definitely want to hear your viewpoints on it because I think you will have some interesting insight. Um, Philip had said the 80s, because I was talking about favorite decade of horror.
yeah.
Sounded scary. Said Mr. Scare Knees says he loves your channel night. Thanks. I appreciate it. Thank you. Monty's going back to work. Take it easy, bro. I'll talk to you soon. I'll talk to you soon. Ronan is with 80s all day, and I read his comment, which was a really cool comment. Val's reminding people to hit the like. And Val, if you get a chance, let me know how we're looking on that. Um, that'd be appreciated. We got Horror B in the chat. My man Dan, now known as Mr. Dan Fam, listening and work. Yeah, all right. Jen saying, although I had seen and enjoyed earlier horror movies, it was Nightmare that made me a fan. All right. Yeah. Gina saying, I love the 80s. I saw so many great films through that era as a child. Some of the films my brother brought home were terrible, though. Yeah, I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. Gloria saying, hey, everyone, I can't stay as I'm at work, but wanted to stop in to say hi. See, that's what I'm talking about. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. 32 watching, 28 likes. Please hit the like. Yeah, thank you, Jen. I appreciate you doing that. Horribly bringing up a good point. I wonder if a lot of people's votes coincides with the decade they were born or grew up in. Nostalgia. Yeah, I think nostalgia can play a part in it. And I think it's okay to have that as part of it because that's your history.
Yeah,
That's where you come from.
I know it would play a part in mine.
Yeah, I mean, I think it should,
Yeah,
because I think it should. Um, Val saying fanboys was awesome. Nice.
yeah.
Glad to hear that, Val. Glad to hear it. Ed Harris is in the chat. What's up, Ed? What's up? Very cool. And I think I'm almost caught up here. Miss Carter's in the chat. What's up? What's up, Miss C? Carl's in the chat. The 70s. All right. Halloween, Omen, Exorcist, Jaws franchises all began, and there'd be no 80s horror without what happened in the 70s. But now, and Michael, I don't know if you're
I know
thinking the
where you're
same thing.
going with this. Go ahead.
Hey,
Go
hold on.
ahead,
Let me
sir.
let me put us up here. You're all right, man, because you know exactly where my mind was going.
Yeah.
Like that is very true, Carl. But I got to go back to things like Psycho.
I,
You
I
know,
was Psycho immediately popped in my head.
right, right, right. Yeah. So all horror has and Psycho has to give it up for the monster movies from the 50s, like, the Invasion of the Body Snatchers and the Blob and stuff like, and they got to give it up to the Universal monsters, and it all goes back to as far back as you can go. No doubt about it. But good point. Very good point. Um Now, Horror my vote was 90s. I was thinking I'm biased since I'm a 90s kid. That's okay though. It's all right. So, Michael, what I was doing was reading some of these comments. I'm pretty much done with it, but then I want to get
Mhm.
your point of view on it. But a lot of these folks were voting for the 80s. Jamie voting for the 80s,
Okay.
um, saying the 70s set the template, but the 80s created the glitz, the tropes, and the pop icons. Wow, I like the way she worded that.
Yeah,
It's very
that's
cool.
that's 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 pretty spot on, the way
Yeah.
that I see things.
Yeah, I mean, so and I kind of thought I knew where you would go. So you'd go with the 80s as your favorite, hard decade, right?
I definitely would, but I
Mhm.
wouldn't just throw the 70s out there. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so 80s for me, being an 80s kid, I was born in 78. I
Mhm.
went up through the 80s, and I actually voted for the 80s on your poll there.
Mhm.
But one of the comments that you read a little, or when I was waiting backstage prior to coming on,
Mhm.
that you were where he was talking about, the 70s, the quality over quantity.
Mhm. Yeah.
That is a very good point.
Yeah.
I don't feel like the 80s was fantastic, and I still vote for the 80s. I'm not
Yeah.
not changing anything or anything, but
Mhm.
man, they had some stinkers in the 80s too.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
I was, the kid that rented everything. If it had
Mhm.
a cool cover, it was horror. We're gonna check it out. But for the most part, I definitely will go with the 80s. But I really like that comment. Because
Yeah.
it is, you know, because sometimes I forget. Halloween, the original was the 70s. You know what
That's
I
right.
mean? It wasn't the 80s, but for some reason, my mind will, unless we literally say, Halloween 78, then,
Right.
I kind of just like, I believe it was almost the beginning of the 80s run. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It was, I
Yeah.
mean, technically you could say Texas Chainsaw Massacre, maybe, but I kind of like lump that in with the 80s, although that's not where it belongs. But in my mind, it falls under, the 80s horror genre.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
know that that's not technically its place, but yeah, it's the 70s, especially God, I love Jaws. You know what I
Right?
mean? Like that's one of my heavy hitters too that was in the 70s. But when you get into, I think someone else was talking about the pop culture, that you got with Freddy, Friday the
Mhm.
13th. That's huge for me, as you know. And
Mhm.
and and Halloween, man, those are, you know, all for the most part 80s. And it's just such heavy hitters for me.
True
The
enough.
slasher genre. I mean, Sleepaway Camp, you gotta
Mhm.
throw that in there. There's just a lot of stuff that I loved about the 80s, but the quality of the stuff that we still talk about from the 70s, man, that's some heavy hitters right there too.
Yeah, man. I mean, and I'm not gonna lie, I'll just say it here live. So if, I mean, bro, you can try to do it on your channel, but I was definitely thinking of having, kind of a way to kind of put those movies against each other, like the heavy hitters of each decade to really
Yeah,
get a maybe even a better sense of, at least in our opinion, this is not anything that's, the whole
right.
world has to agree, but it's just trying to formulate an opinion and have fun. But, when you take the heavy hitters from the 70s versus the 80s and the 90s and so forth, which decade really does kind of come on top,
Like the
So
best versus the best. You throw
yes.
a yeah,
Yes,
yeah, that
absolutely. So that's definitely something I'm thinking about because this poll and really the answers to it, and I'm
yeah,
glad that we had some great comments like that. I think there's a couple more. I might read those too, but because it really made me sit back and think because I mean, you know me too, man. The 80s is you know what I'm
yeah,
saying. But like you said, you can't forget, the
no,
heavy hitters of the 70s. And like I was saying, I think I said it before you had jumped on. I had done a top 10, me, Kill, and Coriander. We did a top 10 of all the decades. And that process of doing those videos made me realize how many great horror movies were in the 2000s, the 2010s, and of course the
yeah,
90s as well. So
yeah.
I mean, growing up in the 80s, sure, we were right there in the heart of it, but we can't forget about a lot of other great horror movies. So it's an interesting conversation, and that's exactly why I wanted to kind of use this to springboard into what we've seen in 2022, which
Yeah.
has been very interesting as well,
I think that one thing, when people talk about horror movies and, they're not really liking the older ones, I think that they don't really look at the actual story and what it was. It was the original, it was the one that brought this, and they start to look at effects on how, effects didn't look as good as in the 70s or, in the
Mhm.
80s as they do now. And then we went
Right.
through that period in the early 2000s to mid 2000s of horrible CGI. They went
Mhm.
from like practical effects to CGI that was tougher for our generation to get through because you're just like, oh God, what is being used to the like practical effects and stuff like that. I just yesterday, believe it or not, watched I for Christmas, one of my gifts was Friday the 13th on 4K, right? The
Ooh,
original.
ooh,
So I watched it and yeah, it's great. And I don't want to say that it kind of takes away from it being in such good quality,
mm-hmm.
but it kind of does.
Yes,
Like the picture looked beautiful. I'm not gonna lie to you. Kevin
right,
Bacon looked like a young Kevin Bacon living now. But when you get
right,
into the practical effects that they used, when they, came up with that stuff, that technology didn't exist. So you can clearly see, you know, like the makeup, you can clearly see all of that, which kind of took away for me from what it was back in the day, to where
right,
it's like, oh, that doesn't even match their skin, you know what I mean? But
right.
you can't see it as much, with the older film. And
That's right.
that's the quality they had in mind when they made it. But to
Mm-hmm.
get back to my original point, I think that people look at effects and stuff like that and say, ah, that's cheap looking compared to what they can do now, so therefore I don't like it. And
Right,
that's where I'm trying to, get people like, no, you got to look at the story. You got to, those were the things that set the tone for some of the stuff that we have now. A lot of this stuff wouldn't exist without it. And I think someone else said that already as you were talking,
mm-hmm.
through your poll,
It's
and
true.
man, it's just yeah. Like I got to go with the 80s though. At the end of the day, that's the decade for me, and that's the one that I definitely will go with, no matter how many bad movies came out in that time frame as well.
No doubt, no doubt. Um, and let me just catch up with these guys too. There's some. I knew this would bring some cool conversation. We haven't even gotten to 2022 yet. Here we go. You
Yeah.
know, so sounded scary saying I was born in '90. I believe late '80s, early '90s horror had pretty good effects. They didn't have all the CGI we have now to make it look somewhat correct. Yeah, agreed, agreed. Gina saying I was born in '76, watched a lot of Hammer films, but didn't see Halloween, Black Christmas, Amityville, and etc. until 1980. All right. Jason coming in saying '80s for me as well. I was born in '67, but I really didn't begin with horror until the '80s. All right. Yeah. JT making a great comment, and I've said this before too. That's how you pick the horror movies back then. The cover, the VHS. It's
That's what I was
so
saying.
true.
Yep.
So true, man. I used to love going to Blockbuster, and man, it was fun, man. That alone was such a. It was
I
like going
watched
to
a
Disney
lot of
World.
bad movies because of good cover art. You know
Oh
what I mean?
yes.
Like,
Oh
it's like that
yeah.
cover's awesome. This is gonna be great. And it's just like, ah, fine.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. And Rainbow Fright is in the chat. What's up, DeRay? The 90s rarely gets any love. There were so many good ones in that decade. DeRay, you are so right. And like I said, when we were doing our top tens of the decades, it really it made me think about it in that sense, because the 90s really did have some good ones, man. Very good point. Very good point. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Hope you had a good holiday as well. And the 2000s. It's true. It's very true. No doubt. Carl saying, to be fair, if you included the 60s, I might have voted for that because of Psycho and the Hammer horror movies. But you could go back to the 30s with the beginning of the Universal monster movies. It's true. It's very, very true. Ronan saying, I love the Hammer Dracula movies with Christopher Lee. I do too. Christopher Lee, the legend. Very, very cool. But let me just make sure, and you guys can continue in the live chat throwing out your comments, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. We also do have a poll that I put up right here, right now, live, to get a sense of which decade we're going to pick. YouTube only allows a few options, though, so I only have the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. But definitely vote there. And we had a couple more comments that I wanted to just address from the poll. Let's see. James was saying the 80s, no contest, was the best decade for horror. We got Freddy, Jason, Michael, Chucky, zombie movies, vampire movies, the practical effects, no CGI horror. It was at its peak in the 80s. I think that covered a hell of a lot. It was good. Russell going with the 80s. Brandon, okay. Now Brandon said, I might be biased because I know the 70s and 80s birthed and defined some of the greatest horror movies ever, but I'm going with a different approach with the 2000s. Yeah, I know it was when the horror remake craze began, but we had amazing movies too. Saw, Final Destination, Trick or Treat, American Psycho. But like the 80s, the 2000s had their share of crap as well. That's true, man. Now, Michael, what do you think about the 2000s? Because Brandon touched upon a really good point. Because, if you think about things like Final Destination and Saw and others, they really made a mark.
Oh, definitely. The funny thing is when someone says early 2000s horror, believe it or not, the first movie that pops in my head is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003 remake.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that. Now, granted, that's a little bit of a sketchy time for me. I was in the military a lot of the, early 2000s. So I didn't get to see things right away as they were coming out. It was
Hmm.
more of a, when the DVD came out, I was able to get it and watch it. So there is
Right.
a little stretch in the early 2000s that's kind of hazy for me
Hmm.
with that. But I mean, it is crazy that it was the remake craze. That's when, all the remakes were coming. But it's funny that it is a remake. It's the
Hmm.
first movie that pops in my head was that 2003 remake. And believe it or not, man, I mean, I see what he's saying, and this may be blasphemy, and I may get killed in the chat for it, but I put that 2003 remake right up there with with the original in the
Hmm.
Texas Chainsaw movies. Like, I absolutely love that remake, and I'm not a huge
Yeah.
remake guy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree, man. I remember uh, seeing it in the theater and going into it. I was like, oh man, I hope they don't mess this up because I was a huge fan of the original TCM,
Yeah,
and I thought that they did a hell of a job. They respected what Toby did, back in the day, but they kind of went down their own little path while still resembling a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, and that's a very hard thing to do
yeah. There's
to
not a
me.
lot of successful attempts at that. You know what I mean?
No, no. So I definitely tip my hat off to them. And as far as, and of course, that it was a good movie because it had really good response from the fans. It had pretty good response from critics, which you never see. And
Right.
really, that jump started everybody doing a remake, whether it was, or reboot, whatever you want to call it, whether it was Friday, The Hills Have Eyes, Nightmare, you name it. Everybody was jumping into the party. So
Yeah.
yeah, Texas Chainsaw remake was really, really, really good.
But not only
Uh,
that, I feel like they captured the gritty, I want to say almost dirtiness of the original in that movie.
yeah.
Like just
Hmm.
the way everybody looked, it was, oh man, it was so good.
Yeah.
Like I definitely throw that up there for
Yeah.
me. And not only the way Leatherface looked was freaking awesome.
Right? Like, they
Yeah.
actually got the look really good, and
Yeah.
I mean, and Texas Chainsaw Man, by the way, and I know especially some of the OGs here, they probably wondered because we haven't really touched upon TCM as a franchise. We did a little bit on the old channel, but on this channel, we've been waiting to do that, and we will soon. But yeah, that franchise has its ups and downs, and I think the remake definitely was an up time for the franchise,
Yeah.
you know. Um, Jason saying, I love the practical effects of my childhood film, like the original Clash of the Titans. Yes. Stop motion techniques, Ray Harryhausen, to set the differences between the real people versus the Titans. Yeah, that's a classic. Absolute classic. Yeah. Um, Val's putting up links to please join us for Bats. That will be on Friday. Hopefully, I got it up as Friday. Val, let me know because maybe I put it up for the wrong day, but it will be Friday night. We'll be talking about bats as we continue our foray into animal horror. Yes, yes, yes. Miss C saying, as most of you in the chat know, my first movie was Friday 13th too, so definitely nostalgic about the 80s, but also 80s horror effects hooked me. For me, I wanted to know how'd they do that? Yeah, yep. Absolutely. No doubt about that. Philip saying Psycho was in the 50s. Psycho was 1960, unless I'm way off. Um, yeah, okay. Jason said Psycho was released in 1960. Yeah, the actual first slasher that put us in the killer's POV was Peeping Tom, released in the same year. Yeah, a lot of people don't talk about Peeping Tom. Definitely, definitely, definitely. Uh, DeRay saying the TCM remake was a beautiful film. I agree. I agree. No doubt. We'll have to get you on, and we'll talk about that too. Because like I said, we haven't gotten a chance to do a lot of TCM stuff yet. Hills Have Eyes, one of the best remakes ever. Yes, that was a great one. Yep. Val saying I did put tonight. Sorry, meant to put tomorrow night. Yes, yes. Oh, I'm just glad I didn't put it on as tonight because I'm like, I won't be on. So yeah, tomorrow night. Uh hey, look. My man Neil is so funny because his favorite movie is the original TCM. He says, I
Did someone
felt
say Texas Chainsaw?
yeah,
He's sitting in his room like, I feel something.
dude,
Drops
that is
on.
too funny. Oh my god, man. He said I felt talk of TCM in the force and had to jump in. That was awesome. Oh Lord. That was good, bro. I hope you're doing well, Neil. He is too funny. God. Um, yeah, but hey, let's do something else here too, man. We still got a poll that's live right now, so people take a vote. I just want to get a vibe on what people feel is the best decade. And again, it's all opinion. We're just having fun. It's nothing, to get too serious about. Like I said, I'm an 80s guy, so my vote definitely would be the 80s. But I recognize, kind of like what Michael was saying, I recognize, and some of you guys have said it, I recognize the importance of the 70s and even before that. And like DeRay was saying, the 90s, the 2000s had some great stuff too. But let's go down to this, Michael. This is what I wanted to throw out to you. I had another poll
Okay.
which had 500 votes. Now, now I'm going to try to make this a little. Well, first let me get your answer, and then I'm going to try to make it more difficult. I wanted to know which part four wa- was your favorite. Okay.
Do you really need to ask me that?
Well, I know, and so I want to get the answer so you could talk about it because I love hearing you talk about stuff, and then I'm going to try to make it a little bit more difficult. So we've got Nightmare on Elm Street 4. We've got Scream 4. We've got Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers. And of course, we have Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Now, in this poll, Halloween ran away with it, bro. Like, I thought it was going to be a little bit closer. Halloween had 53%, Friday 4 had 23%, Scream 4 had 13%, and Nightmare 4 had 12% out of 500 votes. Now, sir,
Mhm.
just let the folks know which is your favorite part 4, and then I'm gonna try to do something to make it a little bit more challenging.
There's only one answer here, Knight. There's only one juggernaut of the part fours, and that's Friday. That's what we're going with.
I know. I know. I know, man. So, obviously, I know that because Michael's a Friday guy. I'm a Friday guy. You guys know that. There's no lying here. But look at JT. He said Friday 4 to end that story. Greatness. Yes. Yes, bro. Okay. Now, and Melissa is a fan of Halloween 4. Halloween 4 was good. Extron, that poll is wrong. Look at this. I love this, guys. This is why we love doing this stuff, man. Ronan going with Friday 4. You guys know what's up. Val, you gotta let me know what you voted for because I'm interested to see what Val says too. But okay, Michael, let's take Friday 4 out of that equation. So we've got Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers.
Yeah.
We've got Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, and we've got Scream 4. Now, which one are you going with? Matter of fact, which one are you going with, and maybe even rank those three?
All right. I'm going with Halloween 4 for number
Mm-hmm.
2 for me. And
Mm-hmm.
and the funny thing about it, within the last 2 weeks, I've watched 2 out of the 3 of those movies.
All right.
So they're pretty fresh for me. Halloween 4, yes, I'm definitely going with that. If I had to pick a second out of those, I'm going with Scream 4 and then Nightmare 4. Not
All
that I
right.
don't like Nightmare 4.
Right.
But I kind of have hard eyes for Kirby, and maybe that's kind of like swaying my vote here just a little bit. Um,
Okay.
but you
Oh.
already know. Yeah, Halloween 4 is definitely my next one on the list. Not
Yeah.
a huge fan of the mask, but the overall content. You know, Danielle Harris. You know, that was her first appearance in that movie. You know, I loved the character of Jamie Lloyd. I loved Rachel. You know, there's just
Yes.
so many memorable things about Halloween 4 that puts it as my number 2 for that. And I mean, we talked a little bit when we were ranking the Halloween movies on my channel. Some
Mhm.
of the things like that kept Halloween 4 from being even higher on the list for me. I think it was my number 4 out of the Halloween movies.
Mhm.
And there's just so many like iconic things and so many potential iconic things in that Halloween 4 movie that they missed the mark on just a little bit. Like looking at the cover of Halloween 4 right there just kind of gives me a little aggravation, because if they had that mask, you
Right.
know, in the actual movie like they had on the cover, it's like, oh god, you guys could have probably knocked this one out of the
Right,
park
right,
with
right.
that.
Yeah, it's true. Melissa said, which one is Friday 4? Friday 4 is the one that had Tommy Jarvis played by Corey Feldman. You had Ted White playing Jason. It was really, really cool. It's a great one.
It had the Crispin Glover dance in it.
That's right. And that's the most important thing.
It's
That's the
it's
most important thing.
it's the most important thing.
Extron saying this is a Friday channel, so I'm surprised Friday didn't win. Well, I would disagree with that. I mean, definitely Friday is my favorite horror franchise. But the truth of it is, because Friday hasn't come back yet like Halloween. So it doesn't surprise me that Halloween won. And of course, and Michael the same way. Michael loves Halloween as well, and we love Halloween too. So,
Oh yeah.
you know, and Extron, I mean, obviously you've been around long enough. I mean, we talk about just as many other horror things other than Friday, because you can't just talk about one thing all the time. So it totally didn't surprise me. I actually was surprised that Scream wasn't higher, because we've also had a lot of great Scream news recently and in recent years. So yeah,
It's I mean, just to touch a little bit on what you were saying, like right now, Halloween is the big thing, you
yeah,
know, in horror. You got to think that there are kids like when we were kids watching horror, you know, that I mean, they don't really know Jason at this point, other than, you know, going back and watching the older stuff, but that's not
hmm,
really going to resonate with them. Like, you know,
right,
they had 2018, they had Halloween Kills, they had Halloween Ends, you know, so there's a whole generation, you know, of horror fans, you know, believe it or not, that are probably 10, 11, 12 years old, you know,
right,
because I know that I was way before that age, you know, I was watching this stuff,
hmm,
that are looking at these like, you know, this is what we know. Michael's badass. So yeah,
that's right.
definitely going with Michael.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and the thing of it is too is that, and of course, what, we won't go down that rabbit hole because we've talked a lot about, Halloween, the state of Halloween, this trilogy. But I mean, Michael, I've said this to Coriander and Killian so much. I said Michael really, whoo, he really rose up with these movies,
Yeah.
and of course, there's question marks now, what's going to happen, when could it happen, should it happen in the future as far as anything else. But yeah, Michael is definitely on top of the world, no doubt about it. um, Val saying, night, as much as it killed me to do it, I voted Friday 13th. Overall, it was better than Halloween 4. Val, I have to agree with you. Overall, it was. I absolutely love Halloween 4. As a kid, it kind of brought me back because I was so disappointed in Season of the Witch as a little boy. And now I understand Season of the Witch and appreciate it in a different way. But Halloween 4 was so important because as a kid, these icons were everything, and Michael Myers was back. So I definitely agree with you with what you're saying. But yeah, I think Friday 4 overall was a better movie. Yeah. Extron saying, night for sure. I see what you mean. Yeah, absolutely. Michael Myers is rest in peace now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one timeline anyway, right?
Hey, you said it. You said it, man. You said it. Um, so let's do this. And for you guys, and Val or Jen, if you guys are able to give us the results of the poll. Again, we're doing a live poll, just seeing what people think about the eras of horror for the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Hopefully, we've got some good engagement with that as far as what people are voting for. But let's talk about 2022, man. Now, one thing I wanted to do is bring up not so much a list, but so many movies come out, man. Sometimes I can't remember them all. So on IMDb, um, hopefully I can pull this up. But if not, we can just talk about some of our thoughts on horror
While you're
from this
pulling
year.
that up, it was
Mhm.
asked to me on another channel, what was your favorite horror movie of 2022? And I blanked it. Like
Really?
totally like was like, you're gonna have to come back to me.
Ooh. Okay.
Like it really wasn't, I really had to go through and look and say,
Hmm.
what's considered horror,
Right.
it was really tough for me, and
Hmm.
I still don't think I know that answer.
Mm.
What was my favorite horror movie? I think that I can maybe do favorite movie of 2022,
Hmm.
and that may surprise some people. That
Okay.
the movie that I love the most, and that was the new Top Gun movie. Believe it or not, I that was my 2022 movie of the year for
Hmm.
me.
Oh, it was fantastic, man. It was such a fun experience in the theater.
Oh yeah,
Um, I and we talked about Top Gun too. Because we had all three of us had seen it and we did an episode on it. Not many people were there because they were probably like, "Why are you guys talking about Top Gun too?"
this is
But
a horror channel. Why are they
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about jets?
But you know what though? But okay, now that's a great. So now we're gonna rabbit trail because I think that that's a great thing to talk about
What
because I
did you
know
do,
how.
Michael?
Well, no, but no, but because I know you look at it the same way too. Like horror is my favorite genre of film.
Yeah,
It just is. But the truth be told, and from day one, even on my old channel, I said, we're gonna have a lot of focus on horror, but we talk about all movies,
yep,
and it could be anything. We've even talked about comedies.
yeah,
Now, granted, most people when they come to a channel, they're enticed by a certain thing, and usually that's what they enjoy the most. But I know with you enjoy movies in general.
movies and beyond, baby.
There you
That's what it
go.
is. It's all movies all day. Yes, I love horror. Just look behind me, but
Dude, that was
but
a great segue. You
you
gotta go ahead, man.
you sometimes you catch yourself up at 11:30 at night starting a fanboys watch party. You know what I mean? Like
Right,
it's all movies all day for me.
right,
Like
right.
that's at the end of the day.
I love
But
it,
don't get me
man.
wrong, my favorite genre is horror.
Right, right, right. I love it, man. But it's true, man. So, but I truly love just all movies, and it's been
Yeah.
that way since I was a kid, thanks to my parents. That's just the way me and my brother were raised. We were raised in a house where movies were always a fun thing, a fun outlet, a fun thing to do as a family as far as watching them and stuff like that. But yes, there's a lot of focus on horror because it's just our favorite, my favorite genre of film as well as Killian and Coriander. So it is what it is. But anyways,
Yeah.
um now I lost my train of thought, but let's talk about some of the horror from 2022.
Yeah.
Um, and I do have a list I'm going to bring up, and you guys in the chat, let us know what you think about some of these movies from 2022. DeRay saying that Top Gun was my first 4DK experience. I freaking loved it. It took me by surprise. Same here. Same here. I was in that theater on the edge of my seat. I was literally on the edge of my seat, and I was loving it. Neil saying the 80s is running away with it as it should for the poll. Val saying 26 votes, 70s are at 4%, 80s at 69. Wow. The 90s, though, showing a little bit at 27%, and 2000s at 0. Ooh. Wow. All right. Okay. Too funny, too funny. And Ronan saying Nope is my favorite 22 film. Nope was really, really good. Did you see Nope, Michael?
I did not. I have not seen Nope yet.
Ooh.
It's one of those movies that are on my list, man, and it's just like things keep jumping in front of it. But
Yeah.
I am definitely looking forward to seeing that one. I know I'm way behind on that one.
Yeah, no, I'm way behind on stuff too, man. Seriously. No doubt about that. Okay, so we got a list of movies. Now we're not ranking these, but I wanted to use this list as a reminder because, like Michael was saying, there's so many movies. Sometimes I blank out on them too, even though I
Yeah.
talk about them.
Right.
But obviously, and, and it's so ironic we start with this, but
I thought you did it on purpose. I
no, I
thought he was like,
didn't.
he's gonna throw that right up there right
Yeah,
now,
I
isn't he?
didn't do it on purpose, man. But like this list has like 100 movies. We're not gonna go through 100 movies, but this was like the first one that I felt had any relevance. Okay, real quick, and we don't have to get into a deep dive discussion. You've talked about it on your channel. I've talked about it here. Halloween Ends.
Mhm.
As far as a movie in 2022, not so much saying whether you liked it or not, but what do you think of it as far as just a movie that came out this year? Was it enjoyable? Was it not? You know.
I mean, at the end of the day, when you look at Halloween Ends, yeah, I mean, it's a good movie. It's well put together. Let me say that.
Okay.
Do I agree with the content that is being put together? Not so much. Was I disappointed for it being the end of a trilogy? Yes, I was.
Hmm.
But I'm very happy that we got another Halloween film this year.
Yeah.
Because prior to this trilogy that we have now, the last thing that we got was Michael Myers' mother riding around on a unicorn in 2009, was it?
Yes,
Yeah.
2009. Yep.
So, I
Yep.
mean, as much as I don't like ends, what
Hmm.
they did with let me not say it that way. As much as I don't like what they did with Michael in the
Hmm.
movie Ends, I'm happy that we got it. I'm happy that it was there. I'm happy that um, it's more exposure for our guy.
Right.
It's at the end of the day, that's great. I mean, I actually have the steel book for Halloween Ends on my way to my house today.
Nice.
Um, which, I'm not buying for the content of the movie. I'm buying it because I'm a collector and I need to complete my steelbook trilogy. Whether I'll ever open it, who knows? But I will have there. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm glad that we got it. Whether you liked Halloween Ends or not, it's another stamp in the Halloween, you know, um, movie list. It's
Right.
another movie to go into the rankings, and it's more exposure for our guy to say, hey, we're still making money with this. Let's see
Hmm.
what we can do in the future moving forward. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm happy we got it.
All right. All right. Horror Boys JT saying missile blows up and kills pilot equals murder, which is horror. So
Top
Top Gun
Gun,
2
yeah.
is okay. There we go. I
We'll have
love
to
it.
recut the trailer with different music, and you can change the
Right.
whole tone of that movie. Yeah.
Oh my God. Val's got the link for Michael's channel, Movies and Beyond, in the live chat. Check out his channel, subscribe to him. You won't be disappointed. He's a wonderful content creator. Been able to get him on here a few times, which is fun. I've been on his channel. So definitely, if you have not checked the link out right now, go there and subscribe to Movies and Beyond. All right. Um, Extron saying you should rank them. Dude, do you know how difficult that would be?
What, rank all the movies of 2022 horror?
Right?
Is that what?
Well,
Oh God.
even if we, well, and I did, because as you know, and you do it too, Michael, we get a chance to collab with other folks every once in a while. And I have talked about, um, a top five or a top six, but of course that can change anytime, because I'm the type of person I'm still absorbing, these movies that I've recently watched, you know what I'm saying?
Oh
So
yeah.
that could change. But who knows, Extron, at some point, maybe we'll do that. It wouldn't surprise me if I didn't do that at some point soon, give a top 10 of 2022 or something like that. So you never
Sure.
know.
I think that my Friday the 13th ranking has already changed since we did that a week and a half ago.
Oh my God, dude. It was so funny when we were doing that. And by the way, especially for you Friday fans, check out Michael's video on that, which was a blast. I was so happy to be a part of that. When we were doing it live, like I had my list, right?
Yeah.
And well, I think I had said it. I was like, oh man, maybe I should scoot one up
Oh
one or
yeah.
down one. Yeah, it's crazy,
And I mean,
man.
even Matt was like, I'm kind of twisted up here right now. I'm looking at my list and I'm kind of twisted up. You
Right.
know, and that's the fun thing about it. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
you start getting into it and then you really start thinking about it. Like I made this list like 3 hours ago and I'm already starting to move stuff around in my head.
That's right.
And with rankings, that's what's so fun about it. And we're doing
Yeah.
Nightmare this Sunday, by the way. So if any of you guys want to check
Ooh.
that out, Matt and I are going to go back and do Nightmare before we throw the big three together and rank all of those together. So
Bro, I'm gonna tell you what, man. And first of all, that's gonna be fun doing the nightmare ranking. We did that at one point. I think we still got it up on the channel, but we had done it on the old channel. But anyways, long story short, putting them all together, I literally was thinking of doing that a while back. And when I told that to Coriander, she was
mhm,
like, "What? How?" And I'm like, "Exactly.
yeah,
How?"
it's going to
Because
be
that
chaos.
it's gonna be chaotic, right? So,
Yeah.
anyways, when you guys do that, man, I can't wait to see that because that is an exercise in terror,
Oh,
trying to
yeah.
figure out how you put all those movies together from the big 3.
Oh, yeah.
So, let's see. Kale saying Halloween Ends was my favorite of 2022. My second, third, fourth, and fifth change all the time. All right. Miss C saying, I haven't been a huge fan of 2022 movies, but they definitely gave us a wide range of horror. That's true. I agree. My favorite is Christmas Bloody Christmas. All right. Um, JT saying Halloween Ends, take out Michael Myers is a great film. JT. Oh man. You're not wrong. Melissa saying Halloween's my favorite of 2022. Um, let's see. Extron saying, I didn't like Halloween Ends, but it was entertaining. I will say that. At least we got a Halloween film, even if I was disappointed. All right. All
Yeah.
right. It's like, dude, you brought up Mr. Ed and Halloween in H2. Yeah, you gotta love the
Yeah.
horsies. Yep. Yep. Just another horror fan in the chat saying, I love what they did with Ends. They tried something new and it wasn't the same old, same old. Yeah, that was the best part about it, is that they were doing something different. And I did love that. Val says, I did like an Ends that they showed that all along Michael Myers was just a man, not supernatural, no Thorn cult BS, followed the OG mythology. Yeah, yeah. And that was the thing we were all worried about is, are they going to try to over explain some stuff or really change up the mythology from 78? And at least, they did the right thing as far as that's concerned. Rainbow Fright, DeRay saying, yes, I'm doing a nightmare ranking in January as well. It's going to be hard. Absolutely. It is. No doubt. No doubt. We got the real fifth Beatle in the chat saying best horror of 22 was Men. Man, we had an episode where we talked about some new horror movies and we talked about Men. Um, and if you could have seen the look on my brother's face, well, and Coriander's face, because we all saw it, and I'm telling you, it was a beautiful movie though. And yeah, yeah. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. Um, Jason's in the best of 2022. Smile, Scream 5, Barbarian, Nope, The Worst, Orphan First Kill, The Invitation, and Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Ooh, all right. Woohoo. All right. So look,
I'm surprised he
um,
didn't throw the new Jeepers Creepers in there as the worst. I would
right?
definitely have to throw that in there to say that that was the worst horror movie of 2022.
Yeah, man, I agree. And I haven't even seen it. I've seen bits and pieces and I've heard a
Ugh.
lot, but yeah, it's bad stuff. Now I'm going through this list. Some of the stuff I haven't seen. Let's go to Hellraiser right here. I just wanted this as kind of a little bit of a guide. We're not going to go through every single movie.
Mhm,
And obviously there's some of these movies we haven't seen or may not have really a big opinion on, but I thought that the new Hellraiser
mhm.
was actually pretty good.
I did too.
And I'm and anyone that's been around long enough, you guys know Hellraiser is one of my most frustrating franchises of all time because after the first two, it just really started to take a detour. Three was okay. But then we had another 6 or 7, and it was just some weird ass shit. I mean, the first one is a classic, and the
Yeah,
sequel is arguably as good as the, or if not better than the first one.
right.
So to see them come back with this new Hellraiser, I was curious, I was concerned, but I came out of it enjoying it. So what did you think of the new Hellraiser?
Big props to Hulu this year, right?
Right.
They did
Yes.
some good things. And
Mhm.
Hellraiser was one of them.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, and the controversial thing about this movie before it came out was the look of Pinhead, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was freaky. It was scary. It was
Mhm.
it was just fantastic. There were some slow points in this movie,
Yeah.
but with any of these movies, that's not, too far fetched that there would be, especially when you have to explain as much as Hellraiser does throughout the movie. But
Yes.
at the end of the day, man, I enjoyed it. When I got up, I was like, yeah, all right, I'll take it.
Mhm.
Which is something I haven't been able to say for a Hellraiser movie for a long time. So
Yep.
not only did I enjoy it, I was happy for the Hellraiser, franchise to get a good movie, under their belt, and to expose Pinhead, to the younger audience and say, hey, I'm here too.
Absolutely, man. I think they did a hell of a job, and if they want to go back down that road, because they kind of opened up the mythology in an interesting way. If they want to go back down that road, I'd check out the next one.
Oh,
You know,
definitely.
which going into it, I didn't think. I try to go into movies open minded, but I just been so disappointed with so many of the movies in the franchise that I almost became numb. So I was so happy that I did enjoy Hellraiser. So for any of you guys that may have been on the fence with Hellraiser on Hulu, give it a watch.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. Um, T Parker in the chat saying top five: Halloween Ends, Scream Five, Pearl, The Black Phone, The Menu. Very cool. Very cool. Some good ones. Yeah. Jen saying Smile was entertaining. Yes. 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 Jamie's in the chat. What's up, Jamie? Saying good morning. Good to see you. Good to see you. Mega Giant saying Night Scream 5 is one of the greatest horror movies to be released in 2022. Yeah, yeah, I enjoyed it. I did. Kale saying Enge showed us what happened after Michael's rampage and how he ruined everyone's lives and not during his rampage. And that's pretty cool, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, they went down a different path, and I think Ends is going to be a movie that as time goes on, people will look at differently. Very similar to Season of the Witch, Friday 5, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, movies like that that really have a departure, but is still well done for what it is in that particular franchise. I think as time goes on, people get a chance to you know, appreciate it differently. So,
Mm.
and we'll see as time goes on. We will see. Ronan saying, I want a remake of the B movie Intruder from 1989. I love that movie. Great call. We love that movie too. We did an episode on that for Slasher Movie Club. Intruder was a great B movie slasher. It really, really was. I wouldn't mind seeing a remake either. Yes. Jen saying, you missed my 2022 ranking. Jen, if you could put that again in the chat, because I am going through tons of comments as I'm talking and putting up images. So yeah, if you could put that back up, I'll try to get to it. Yeah. JT saying bad thing about Halloween Ends, Corey just hanging out with Michael during the whole Hungry Eyes deal. You figure he would tell his, oh, don't you know his girlfriend that their eyebrows. What the jeez. Listen, it was definitely an interesting um story choice, I'll say. It was very interesting. But when I was in the theater, man, that anticipation as you're going through the movie, anticipation was still really high. Did they do some things that kind of threw me off? Absolutely. But kind of like what you said, Michael, we got to see our boy again, and especially for fans of Laurie Strode, I think Halloween Ends is a Laurie Strode movie, you know, which in the sense of it being a trilogy and also linking to 78, I guess it makes sense, that the story ends with her and finally overcoming, her boogeyman, you know?
Yeah. And I
So
mean that was great and everything. It's just, they didn't really show the boogeyman.
right, right. They needed
Like
at
that
least at least 10 more minutes. That's all I needed.
make me and a few other things. But
When
it's yeah, I'm glad we got it.
yeah, I know. I loved it that one stream we did, and you said I forgot how you worded it, but you said, "I said I would never talk about it again, and here I am at it again."
Yeah, that was the ranking video. I was like, so I'm about to make a liar out of myself,
Yeah,
and here we
that
go.
was great. Yeah. Jen saying, "My favorite of 22, Scream, My Best Friend's Exorcism, and Pearl. I did not like X, though." Oh, okay. All right. Now, next up on this list, we got Terrifier 2. Um, Terrifier 2, to me, I finally did, I did get to see it in the theaters. I think it was 2 weeks after it had come out in the theaters. I finally got a chance to see it, and man, you wanna talk about some friggin' gore, practical effects and gore. Holy crap. They, well, they did some stuff. Art the Clown, I will say this, the reason why I wanna talk about this, and I think JT referenced it too on his, live stream. We've got a new horror icon, you know? I mean, I definitely think one more movie and it's for sure, but definitely on the rise. We got a new horror icon in Art the Clown, David Howard Thornton, who's a great guy, by the way. Very cool dude. He's playing the Grinch in the mean one, but he has a certain talent. He's so great physically as art. Like it's not a movie for every horror fan. I wanna be clear about that. Neither is the first Terrifier. We did that for a slasher movie club episode. But for those who who like that type of thing as far as gore and practical and it's a slasher and so forth, you can't go wrong with it. If you're a fan of those elements. Did you get a chance to see Terrifier 2?
Oh yeah, oh
Okay.
yeah. I saw
All right.
that. Yeah, uh,
Oh,
when
that's
it
right.
right when
We
it came. Yeah,
Yeah, we talked okay, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I saw that one right away. I will
Yeah,
say,
you did.
and believe me, it's
I need your I need your friends. No, I'm
yeah.
just joking.
So I did see that. And with Terrifier, after seeing the first one, you
Mhm.
know what you're about to get when you go into a Terrifier movie. If you
Yes.
don't, then yeah, I can see, shock value for, this one was a little more, well, a little more. It was a lot more mainstream than the original. So I
Mhm.
think that that's where the big shock value came from,
Yeah.
all the people like, oh my God, I've never, and it was great for him to get that exposure. But man, I'll tell you what, as this character evolves,
Mhm.
I can see why, they're throwing him in the mix as another horror icon,
Yeah,
and how long has it been since we had a new horror icon?
that's right.
I mean,
Jigsaw.
really, if you really think about it, yeah, you have to probably go to Saw, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So I mean, Saw, the original Saw came out in what? That was
Oh, oh 01, oh 03, somewhere around there.
well, of course it doesn't say on here. But yeah, so you're looking at what, 20 years since we
Yeah.
had a horror icon? We're due.
Mhm.
And I mean, if you look at Art the Clown as that character's evolving, like his look and everything from where he
Mhm.
started to where he is now, man, I'm digging it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely digging that. And yeah, Terrifier too. I'll take it.
Yeah. I mean, and I've heard some people, and I know because I've put polls up about it. Is art an icon? And a lot of people are kind of in the wait and see phase. Some people have said no, but there are a lot of people that say yes. I'm telling you right now, and I hope to be still doing this channel in a few years, obviously. I'm telling you, we get another movie that is close to the same level of what we've seen so far, and it's a yes.
Yeah.
To me, it's a yes right now because I can kind of, I can read between the lines. And Terrifier 2 just killed it at the box office. The profit margin for Terrifier 2 was ridiculous. You know,
Yeah, just as much as we love Michael for his blank, emotionless face,
hmm
you can say the exact opposite of Art. Like he's so animated. You know,
Yes.
like his facial expressions, and even in the first one, you know what I mean? Like he'd
Mm-hmm.
go from a serious "I'm gonna kill you" to a huge creepy ass smile.
Mm-hmm.
That's equally as eerie to me as, you know, the blank emotionless. Like for the way Michael is, you know, I love every minute. I love the fact that he art's the complete opposite.
Right.
Like it's I'm digging it, man. To tell you the
I
truth.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. It's definitely something that really makes you just you just look at him a lot differently than you do, some of the other icons. As a matter of fact, and this will be for everyone in the chat. Let me just play this. Obviously, this is a famous clip from the first movie, but it's just so damn creepy. Check this out.
Are you okay?
I mean, look at that
I think we should get our food to
face.
go.
I'll be right with you, buddy. You got to see the shape of this fucking guy that just walked in.
I
That's
just,
exactly what I was talking about. To go from
yeah,
one to the other, it was great. It was a great scene.
yeah, absolutely, man. So
And then the
you
girl
know,
sits on his lap and takes a picture with
dude,
him. I'm
when
sitting
I
there like,
first
you
saw that, I was like,
got to be kidding
"Oh
me.
my god." I'm telling you, man. So yeah, Terrifier 2 definitely is moving that needle. Art the Clown, to me, definitely good things to be coming. Jason was talking about, and we talked about this too, the idea that was they didn't go with it as far as linking ends with Season of the Witch with the Silver Shamrock logo. And, they talked about there was a scene where they showed the conveyor belt at the factory and they had the witch, the skull, the pumpkin mask, and then Michael's mask comes out. Um, we don't have to get deep into it, but I definitely think it would have. I'll tell you this: if that had happened, we we might still be talking about that right now. Just as the fandom, would be maybe on both sides of the fence. I think they ended it in a way where, again, this was Laurie's thing. This was Laurie's, journey and coming to an end of her journey, so to speak, overcoming Michael. But I'm not 100% opposed to them having, those links or ties to Season of Witch. I think it could have been interesting. What do you think, Michael? I mean, I know it's a tricky conversation, because it could totally go wrong, you
Yeah,
know?
I mean, for me, like, what Halloween is to me, and this is why I loved, you know, Halloween 2018 so much. And you and I have touched on this as well. I've talked about it on my channel. The original Halloween Michael, the shape, right? The emotionless, the shape. And then, you know, mid Halloween 2, he becomes a brother,
Right.
and then he's my crazy brother trying to kill me. Then he's my crazy uncle trying to kill me. And I feel
Mhm.
like at that moment, and granted, this is my opinion, this is just how I look at it. The thing that made the shape so scary is he was no one. You know,
Mhm.
now he's a family member, and everybody's got a crazy family member. I'm not saying that they're going out there trying to kill somebody,
Right.
but you know, it makes him more relatable and it makes him not the shape anymore to me.
Mhm.
What
Yeah.
David Gordon Green did coming back was bring Michael back. He's not related to anyone. You know, he's the shape again. You know, however you feel about Halloween 2018, there was that. And that's one of the things that made me so happy about this was he was back to being the shape through my eyes. Okay, we'll say it
Mhm.
through my eyes. And I think that if you would have ended it that way, you would have given Michael a reason to be doing what he's doing. You
Mm.
know, and
Yeah.
a lot of things too, you know. So with the Shamrock, you know, that kind of gave them like strength and stuff like that too, right? If
Mhm.
if you look at that, Michael had so many kills without his mask on that I think that it would have just been, you know, that would have been a debate. But at the end of the day, it's like, to me, I feel like that would have just been another thing giving him a reason uh to 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 not, now he's not the shape anymore. He's a guy that's being controlled by his mask.
Right,
And
right. True.
again, that throws my love for Halloween again, out the window.
Mhm.
It and that's why I wouldn't be a fan of that, going that way. Now, I
Mhm.
wasn't a fan of what they did in the last one, so at that point, it really wouldn't, matter to me, anymore. But
Yeah. No, I hear you.
but yeah, that would be the problem, going into it fresh. That would be the problem that I have. Like, my love for Michael is the mystery. It's
Mhm.
it's scary because it doesn't fit any of the profiles of like serial killers as we know it. Just a kid who killed his mom. No, then you can go back to Loomis looking past the wall. I know all the lines for that.
Mhm.
It's like now you're giving him that reason and you've taken it back away from me, you
Right.
know?
Right.
And that's just how I feel. And I know there's tons of Season of the Witch fans that would have loved to see Michael join that,
Oh, yeah.
group. And there's nothing wrong with that either. But,
Mhm.
I don't want the reason to be there because
Yeah.
that's what separates Michael for me from the rest.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and by the way, JT was saying Victor Crowley. Definitely Victor Crowley, could be mentioned as well.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Hatchet, but just to touch upon that too, I think that, and I totally agree with what you're saying. Michael not knowing was what was so scary. He was just a kid. He walks up the steps. He kills his sister. Why? I don't know. I have no clue. Loomis didn't know, other than just saying that he was pure evil. That
Right.
was scary, and as we went through the franchise, like you said, reasons were given, and I've always said this, and we've seen it happen in Halloween, in Friday, and in Nightmare, where we start to, give reasons. We're trying to give you an explanation, and anytime you do that, you can sometimes tarnish what originally made those stories great or those characters scary or whatever, and that's the problem. Although I will say, and I did talk about this once before, even before Halloween Ends had come out. This was actually right after Kills. If they were to have tied it to Season of the Witch in a way, and of course it would have taken some explanation, but if they said that the mask augmented what he already was, like in other words, kind of cutting it in the middle, that might have been, a way that they could have, kind of given a little bit to both sides of the fence. But of course,
Mhm.
that would have gotten tricky too. So I agree. At the end of the day, Michael, the 78 version of Michael, his not having the reason is the best thing about him. But
Well, that's my biggest problem with Rob Zombie's versions of Halloween.
exactly,
Granted, they have their problems, but yet, you watch the first 10 minutes of Rob Zombie's Halloween 1, you're like, "Yeah, I can totally see why this kid did this.
yeah, it's
I
almost
totally
like
get it."
how could he not become Michael
Right? It's
Myers?
like, yeah,
You
there is
know?
no mystery. Look at this kid. Look at his environment. Any
You
of
know?
us that end up in a mask at that
Right?
point, you know what I mean? Like, it's
It's
it's freaking
crazy,
crazy.
man. We got Michael Trapson in the chat. What's going on, man? What's going on? Saying Myers wasn't the boogeyman in Ends, he was just a boogie. I like that, man. You know what? When I don't want to go at some point, and I know Michael, you're probably thinking, don't drag me into this, but at
Oh,
some
no,
point,
it's fine.
I but at
I've
some
moved
point,
past it. I'm good.
yeah, yeah, but and I'm playing around too, but at some
Yeah.
point I did want to get the crew back together, almost to have like a um
Where
almost
are
like a
they now?
yeah, yeah, a reunion, talking about Halloween Ends,
Where
we've
are
let
they
it
now?
settle, how do we feel now? But I
Yeah.
will say real quick, just to segue off of what Michael was saying here in the chat, when we saw him with that first kill, in the cave, and he starts to do the shimmy, I'm telling you, man, I thought we were gonna go in a certain way. We didn't. I was ready to, but again, they made certain choices in the movie. But yeah, at some point, I definitely want to go back down that road a little bit. But to kind of make a bridge between Michael and also with Art, because I saw a comment in the chat, and of course, everyone has their opinions. But now T. Parker was saying wasn't a fan of Terrifier 2. I thought it was too long. I do agree with that. Way over the top, ridiculous gore, and the plot didn't make a lot of sense and left a lot of questions. But that's just me. And one thing I do want to say is, and we just did Terrifier. I think it was 2 weeks ago on Slasher Movie Club. So check that out if you haven't. But I think that's one of the best things about Art is that there's a lot of questions. you know, like in both movies. Like, why? Where?
How?
How?
Yeah.
Right? How?
How? That's the
Dude,
biggest question. How?
right? Because like we've seen him, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone that hasn't seen either movie, but we've seen him physically get hurt or beat down a little bit. But we've also seen him do things that Michael Myers can't do
Yeah.
physically, right? So how is a big question. But I do think that for me anyways as a fan, and it's just my opinion, I think that's one thing that intrigues me about him as a horror icon or character, and also these movies, is that there's a lot of questions. Like, how the hell is some of this shit happening? Why is it happening? In the first movie, you literally see him watching that broadcast where they're talking about the murders, and you see him getting his tools together, which was, by the way, a nod to Nightmare on Elm Street, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, when Freddy's putting the glove together. At least in my opinion, I think it was a nod. I'm sure Damien meant it as a nod. um but we don't know why. So I think that that's, to me, a strength. And I just hope as we go on that they don't try to explain too much shit. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I really
Yeah.
do, because I think that that is a strength, very similar to, Michael, at least the original concept of Michael Myers.
And I'll
Ooh, a
tell
big
you what,
studio wants to get behind it. Mm.
something else about
Oh, good.
Terrifier 2 that I thought was pretty creepy was his little buddy there. That
Hmm.
the
Yeah,
little girl,
the
like,
pale girl.
yeah, it's like, wow.
Hmm.
I'm not usually for buddy stuff, but yeah, okay.
That laundromat scene alone was
Even
like,
Art looked over like,
"What?"
"What the hell?" at
Yeah, I
first.
know. Dude, I'm not gonna lie, man, it made me chuckle in the theater. It was the people that laughed in the theater. But that's the thing, is that it's very dark, but it also has those moments of levity and comedy, which is really hard to balance,
Yeah.
really, really hard. Um, DeRay saying, "I feel bad for David Howard Thornton, who played Art, who had to play the Grinch in The Mean One. Terrible movie. He was the only thing good about The Mean One." All right, I haven't seen The Mean One yet.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Yeah, yeah. Um, let's see. And thank you, Jamie, reminding people to give a thumbs up. That would be great. If you guys can let me know how we're looking with the thumbs ups, that would be great. Jack's in the chat. What's up, Jack? Good to see you. Jason saying, I agree with you, Nightwatch. I agree as well with the shape concept. 2018 was good because of this. Carpenter has always said the less we know about Michael, the better. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. And I feel the same thing is true with Jason and Freddy and Pinhead and Candyman and Chucky and all of them.
Yeah.
Art. Yeah. The poll's at 43 votes. The 70s has now 2%. The 80s is strong at 77%. The 90s at 19, and the 2000s is finally on the board with 2. All right. All right. Um That's a good point, Jason. Yeah, it reminds me of the birds not knowing why the birds started attacking. It's terrifying. I agree. Yeah. So let's go back to this list, and let's do a couple more. There's some that I specifically wanted to throw out there, and like I said, this list is friggin' long. It's like friggin' 100 movies listed on here. And here we go with Smile. Um, Smile for me was it was just a situation. Actually, we saw Smile because we couldn't see Terrifier 2. We were ready to go to the theater, and Terrifier 2 wasn't playing in our area at the time, and Smile was. And so Corey says to me, she says, "Well, do you want to see Smile?" And I was like, yeah, yeah. I mean, the commercials, the trailer and stuff looked all right, but I said, well, let's just go and watch it. I loved it.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. It was a I love those types of movies experiences where you go in kind of blind or you don't expect a lot and you enjoy yourself. I absolutely love Smile. Sosie Bacon deserves all the roles from here on out. She did her work in that movie. So what'd you think of Smile?
Smile, I was pleasantly surprised by.
Mm.
Um, I
Mhm.
felt like I started watching Smile, and it kind of, like, towards the beginning, like, this is disturbing. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Like, towards the beginning, and it ended the way it ended, and I'm not saying that that was the perfect ending for that movie,
True.
but overall, I really did like Smile, and
Mm,
the only thing is I don't really want a Smile too
right.
because I think that it stands good on its own.
Yes.
I was having a conversation with a friend who's actually not on YouTube, and she was talking about like, well, they set it up for a part two, and it's like, do I really care if the cop, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to ruin anything, but I
Mhm.
really don't care about his story too much, and
Right.
technically, you know, I don't know, but I think it's a standalone movie. Maybe they'll do something totally different. Who knows? But as a
Yeah.
standalone movie, I really like Smile.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was such a good time, man. I mean, like you said, it wasn't perfect. It had some missed moments. The ending
Right.
kind of was, there was things I loved and things I was like, but overall, pleasantly surprised. I can't say enough about Smile. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Um, the Virgo in the chat, what's going on? Saying Michael's mannerism and robotic movements is what I love. Absolutely, man. And I think the one thing we can all agree on is James Jude Courtney is a legend. He was
Oh yeah.
able to step into that role and just do his thing, man. I absolutely love what James Jude Courtney did as Michael Myers, and I think universally, most people agree that he did a great job. You know,
Yeah.
um, Jamie saying, as a person who's interested in psychology, it makes total sense to me why Rob Zombie wanted to show people how psychos are made in real life. I applaud him for it. Yeah, it's one of those things. And Jamie, you know how I am about this, and we've talked about Rob Zombie's Halloween, both movies on this channel, and we did the Sins editions of both movies. So check those out if you guys haven't. But I knew what he was doing, and I do appreciate it. There were some great things about it, but there was also some things that I felt like with the mythology I didn't enjoy as much. But I definitely enjoy the first one as a horror movie. Both movies, as slasher horror movies, they're both good. As Halloween movies is where sometimes I can kind of have some moments where I think they went left when they should have went right and so forth. But it was interesting, what he did, and he's a talented director. I like a lot of his movies. So I won't say that what he did didn't totally work because I did enjoy some of it. And I mean, he is in an impossible situation. How are you going to remake Halloween? You know what I mean? Like Michael's mythology is such a narrow lane, which is its strength and also could be considered a disadvantage. So it's like, how do you do that? Like Rob probably did it, and the only way he could do it is kind of showing backstory and then kind of doing his own riff on the events of the 78 movie. So yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. Hey, we got Conrad's in the chat too. What's up? What's up, man? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Hope your holidays have been going well. Um, let's see. Let's see. We got CK in the chat. CK Costumes. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the chat. Saying, Knight, have you read the Ends novelization yet? I did check out the novelization, and there's a chance, I might get into some content discussing some of that. It's interesting stuff, man. Because it's it's different. There's no doubt about that. And some things you're like, well, why didn't they do this in the movie and vice versa? So very interesting stuff. Have you read the novelization, Michael?
Oh no, I have not.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. It's good, for what it is. Um, yeah, Chris Jericho in Terrifier 2, right? That was kind of like, what? That was very, very unexpected. Um, so let's move on in this list. I want to hit at least a couple more here. And obviously, and there's Jeepers Creepers Reborn. We won't we won't go down that road.
Let's take time and talk about that. No, I'm just kidding.
Right. But here we are with Pearl. Now, did you get a chance to see Pearl?
I did see Pearl.
What'd you think?
You know what? I really enjoyed Pearl, and I wasn't sure if I was going to
Mm-hmm.
going into it, but I really did like Pearl. Definitely, I wouldn't say that it was kind of what I expected, but it was kind
Right.
of what I expected it to be. But it was good to see the story play out. and yeah, I really enjoyed it as the prequel. Like
Yeah.
it was good.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
want to talk too much like in depth about them because these movies are kind of new,
Right.
and like
Agreed.
there are people that haven't seen them.
Mhm.
But there were a lot of parts in there that was, it kind of did explain a few things for,
Mhm.
X, which I enjoyed. Again, another good movie, Pearl, this year.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's definitely a win. Jen saying we got 41 watching, 44 likes. Thank you so much, Jen. I appreciate that. Um, Santrum in the chat saying, I don't know. I think talking about the poll, it's a tough one, you know.
Yeah.
The Virgo saying, I liked Smile. Absolutely, absolutely. Um, Kale saying Smile was great. The middle kind of dragged, but the ending was fantastic, I think. All right, all right. And by the way, for you guys that are just jumping in, I know a lot of times people just jump in. Don't forget to hit the like button. That would really help out. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. But also to Michael's channel, Movies and Beyond. Val put the link in the live chat, and if you guys can put the link again in there for us, and I also have the link to Michael's channel in the description. But go to Movies and Beyond and subscribe to my man Michael. Now, for my Jen saying, I loved The Therapist and Smile. Absolutely. Yes. Um, for me, Pearl, I think was so good because Mia Goth, holy crap, man. You talk about a movie where, the weight of that movie is on an actress's shoulders. She really delivered. Um, it definitely wasn't what I was expecting per se, but I love that as far as going in and, thinking it's going to be one way and then it goes totally different. And I love it. And I think it was some cool stuff that really linked up with X, which X was also a great horror film. I really think 2022 has had a lot of great horror movies, and I think look, we were just talking about these decades of horror. I'm telling you right now, man, if we can get a couple more years at this level in this decade, the 2020s is gonna have some good stuff to
Not too
compare.
shabby.
Not shabby at all, man. Not shabby at all. Um, T. Parker saying, "Smile, I was underwhelmed by, but especially the ending. I felt the internet overhyped the film, but the more I watch it, the more I enjoy it, especially the performances." Yeah, that's a great point. Sometimes the hype can really, um, skew the experience of the viewer. But I do agree the performances, especially Sosie Bacon. I mean, just I thought that she was just so good in this role. So definitely a great performance. Um, Ronan saying, I still have to check out Smile, but I'm interested. I can't wait to see it. Yeah, yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one, bro.
Definitely a good
Mike,
watch.
yeah. Michael saying definitely a good standalone, but if done right, a sequel could be interesting. Yeah, I mean, true. If they could do it the right way and it's not just a money grab, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they actually put some heart and soul into a script that is good. I agree. I agree. I'd be nervous, but I agree. It could be done right. It could be done right. Mega Giant saying, Night, what was a horror movie you watched that came out recently, the last 5 or 10 years, that you considered to be a 5-star masterpiece? Ooh, wow. 5 stars. Um, that's a really tough question that I would probably have to think about for a bit, maybe even write down. And here's one thing, and Michael, you can jump in on this too. When we do rankings or we talk about multiple movies where we grade them,
Mhm.
and I have a great memory. I really do. Like a lot of times when we talk about movies, I know names, I know actors, I know directors and stuff like that. But even with all that being said,
Mhm.
doing rankings, I gotta write them down or type
Oh,
them out
definitely.
to really physically, see it and try to absorb. You know what I mean? Um, that being said, right off the top of my head, one of my favorite horror movies in the last, 10 years or so, I love The Conjuring. I love The Conjuring. That's a movie that jumps out in my mind. That's not to say that it'd be my, concrete answer because there's so many good movies. But I love The Conjuring. I think 2018 Halloween was great. I absolutely loved it. I mean, seeing that in the theater was just such an experience. Um, I know there's some others that are just, you know, not in my mind, but just as some examples, I would throw those kind of out there. It's an impossible question to answer right on the fly.
I think you did a good job because The Conjuring was something else when it came out. Like
Okay.
that was oh man, like I remember going to the theater and seeing that. And one of the things when I left the theater, movies like that up until that point, you would get a scare,
Yeah.
then you would get a break, then you would get a
Mhm.
scare, then you would get a break, and then you would have
Mhm.
like, the ending sequence. It felt like once The Conjuring got going, it
Mhm.
didn't stop.
Mm.
It was just like bam, bam, bam. And it's like this is still going. Like you weren't getting those long break periods in between messed up things happening. Like once it
Right.
started, it didn't stop, man. Especially
Mhm.
the original. Like
Mhm.
it was a great theater experience when I went to see The Conjuring.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And I mean, and the other thing about The Conjuring too is that it really first of all, James Wan is amazing in my opinion.
Yeah,
I'm a huge James Wan fan. But what I thought he was able to do with The Conjuring is kind of marry old school horror with very modern horror. You know what I mean? Like he took his time in the movie. He really developed these characters. There was great acting by great actors. It was well done. Um, so when the stuff started happening, you really cared about, these characters and the family. Vera Farmiga to me can do no wrong. Patrick Wilson and her had such great chemistry as these two characters.
yeah,
Everything worked, you know. And so yeah, one of the first movies that come to my mind in the last decade or so, decade to 15 years, anyways, is The Conjuring because it just had so many great elements. And I think to me, and I've said this many times on live streams, I think that was a moment in horror where horror started to get a lot more respect, from the critics especially. Not that it didn't have any respect, but I think that The Conjuring really opened the door, for a lot of other movies that came after it, whether it be, what some people quote unquote call elevated horror or whatever. But I think it started with The Conjuring because James Wan, he really upped the game. It's like you had to come correct. You had to have good actors
yeah,
that were really passionate. You had to have good script. You had to explain why these characters should mean anything to you instead of just people just getting killed every 2 minutes, you know? And anyways, that's a long-winded answer. But Mega Giants, that's my answer right off the fly. Um, for whatever it's worth. All right. So let's talk about at least one more, Michael, because I know we're running long here. Time's been flying. It's almost like 2 hours here. Holy crap. But I'm having fun though. Um,
definitely.
Barbarian. Barbarian. Now, there's a lot of people that have been on both sides of the fence from what I've seen in comments, whether it be on live streams or on videos and so forth. Did you get a chance to see Barbarian?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I'll let you give your thoughts on it first. What were your thoughts on it?
The best thing about Barbarian was I had no idea what I was walking into.
Mm,
I feel
mhm.
the trailers didn't give you anything.
Yes.
All I knew was people coming out of it saying it was really good, and it seemed, for a while that was across the board. That's all I was hearing. Like, you got to check out Barbarian. You got to check out
Right.
Barbarian.
Right.
And when I watched it, um, it almost felt like it was a little confusing,
Mhm.
towards the beginning,
Yes.
because it's almost like two different movies, and then they're
Mhm.
combined into one at the end.
Yes.
Um, it was definitely a different format than, really what I'm used to. Uh,
Mhm.
at the end of the day, what ended up being what it was like, "Oh, yeah, okay."
Mhm.
But I had fun the entire ride, you know, to get to the end.
That's right.
And whether you like the ending or not, or, what ended up being what it was, definitely different. I will give it that. It was definitely different. But did enjoy Barbarian. Like that's yeah. If somebody asked me, is it worth a watch? I'm definitely
Mm,
100% worth a watch.
absolutely, absolutely. And
And this
before I
is
give
me doing my best to give my spoiler free stuff with these being all 2022 movies.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, we definitely don't want to spoil it because there are some people, and I actually know a few people that still haven't seen Barbarian yet. So I definitely
Yeah,
don't want to spoil it because I think you should go into movies as blind as possible. It's hard to do that nowadays with trailers and the internet and so forth, but
right.
I totally agree with you. Um, Real quick too, Ronan coming in. We got a super chat, $2 super chat, man. Thank you so much, much appreciated. First one of the day, saying felt like showing some love. Hope everyone is well. Hey, man, thank you so much. Seriously, I really appreciate that. Very, very cool of you. Very, very awesome. Um, let's play a couple clips for you, man. Let's have some fun with that. But thank you, Ronan. You're all right. This one is for you. Here we go.
There she is. Sexy lady.
Let's do let's do one more for you. Here we go, Ronan. All
Why?
right. Oh man, I love it. I love it. Um, Thanks, Ronan. Seriously, much appreciated. Miss C heading on out. All right. Have a good day. Much appreciated having you here. Okay. Um, Virgo saying the cinematography in Pearl was beautiful. I agree. I agree. Jamie saying Mia Goth's facial expressions blew me away. She killed it. She killed it.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. Mm. I loved it. I loved it. T. Parker saying Hereditary is a masterpiece. Now, it's funny you say that too, T. Parker, because that was another movie that came into my mind when we talk about the last decade or so of movies. And that's what I was alluding to when I said that I think The Conjuring really opened up doors for movies like Hereditary, where again, you take your time, right? You don't have to have a kill every 2 minutes. You don't have to have, jump scares every 5 minutes. You don't have to have tons of blood and gore. I'm not saying that's bad, but I'm just saying you can tell a story that is centered on characters and then the horrible things that they experience so that you can be invested. So, great example. That being said, Barbarian for me, similar to what Michael was saying, I went into it blind. I had no clue what I was in for when we went to go see it in the theater. Another pleasant experience. Again, not perfect. There were some moments where it's kind of like, oh, well, okay, but it showed that you can do a movie that is not connected to a franchise or a remake or an old show or reboot or and it was its own thing, and I really really appreciated that. And I hope that we continue to have movies like a Barbarian, that totally go out there, so I definitely think it's one of my favorites of 2020, no doubt about it.
It was definitely very original.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. When things were
Yeah.
happening, I was just like, "What? When?"
Right.
I'm telling you.
And I mean, I
Um,
really like Justin Long. Like
oh my god.
I do.
He
I can't
he
help
he
it.
he has literally became one of my favorite actors in horror movies or
He's
horror thriller, you know?
the guy
He's
can
just
do
great.
anything. He can be horror, he can be comedy. He
Yes.
can just he can yeah.
He can, man. He does it all, and it's like you said, he's good at comedy, he's good at horror, he's good at thriller, he's play a good guy, he could play a bad guy. He's just that talented. He truly, truly is.
Yeah.
Our good friend Neil reminding us all that TCM is elevated horror. Leatherface elevated Pam on that meat hook. There you go. Kale saying Barbarian is freaking amazing. Most tense film I've seen all year with great humor as well. The score is great. I've listened to it a lot. All right. Ty is not a fan of Barbarian, saying, I think it's overrated. Okay. All right. The Virgo saying Barbarian was a bit hectic. Yes, it was. It really, really was. Fairpoint Station in the chat. What's going on? Hashtag survival of the fittest. Hashtag Justin Long did nothing wrong. I like that. Oh man. Jamie's a fan of Tom Jones. All right. I know it. I know it. Val saying I haven't seen Barbarian. Oh, Val, you haven't seen it? Oh my gosh. Val, remind me, message me. We got to do a watch party of Barbarian. We got to do that. I might have to set that up for real because it's one of those movies I think all horror fans should check out. Like I said, there's some folks it didn't hit totally with, but yeah. So if you think about it, Val, remind me of that. Yeah. Philip said that the 80s is now at 76%. Woo! Wow. It's running away. Jason saying, thank you both for an awesome live stream. Have an awesome day, everyone. Thank you so much, Jason. We really
Thanks,
appreciate
Jason.
that. Yeah, absolutely. So let's do this. I wanted to get obviously to a few more things. And I don't even need the guide to tell me. I'm gonna name out a couple of movies and you just give me your quick blurb on them, Michael. When 2022 horror comes to my mind, I think of Scream 5. I think of The Black Phone.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts? I think of Nope, which I know you haven't seen
Right.
yet.
I haven't checked that one out yet.
But what did you think of Scream 5? What'd you think of The Black Phone? And I know there's a couple others that we'll probably throw out there, but just for those two in particular, what were your thoughts on those?
Scream 5, I did enjoy Scream 5.
Mhm.
I mean, I really am one of the people that hated to see Dewey go.
Yeah, right?
I kind of like almost shut down watching the rest of the movie after that happened. And I'm not usually one to do that.
Mhm.
I think that Dewey meant so much to me in Scream.
Right.
Just like why did it have to be Dewey? It could have been
Mhm.
somebody else. And regardless of, how you feel about that, overall, yeah, it was a good movie. We got Jenna Ortega. Kind of, you know, Scream came out before X, didn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so that was the first time I saw Jenna Ortega.
Right.
Like,
Mhm.
I didn't know who she was or anything like that. I
Mhm.
think she did a great job. But yeah, overall, it was a good movie. A little disappointed with, losing a character. And sorry if that's a spoiler to any people to this point, but it was definitely, one of the things that made it definitely not my favorite of the Scream movies.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
just makes me look forward to the new ones to say, okay, well, now this is going to have to be something totally different for me than what it
Mhm.
was. Because without that Broken Arrow song at least once in a Scream movie, I feel like, I've lost some of my. It's just kind of one of those things I looked forward to, like
Yeah.
when they came on. But
True
I
enough.
don't
True
know.
enough, man. Yeah.
Black Phone, yeah, yeah, that was a surprise for me. Based off of the trailers and everything, I wasn't really that pumped up to see it. I was like,
Mhm.
well, here's another child abduction movie, and
Mhm.
now the kid's talking to ghosts on the phone. This is gonna be horrible. In
Mhm.
all honesty, that's how I felt going in. But I have actually watched it, and I was definitely glad I did. They did some things a little different than what I thought I was going to see.
Mhm.
And I think that overall, it kept my interest the entire time. And by the time it was over, I was definitely glad that I saw the movie. Like it's, I don't know, man. It was just way different than I thought it was going to be.
Mm. Yeah.
Black Phone. So another one of the movies that I do want to mention from this year, and in some lists it is classified as horror, in other lists it's not. One movie that I really enjoyed this year was Prey.
Yeah.
And I know that that's kind of a, people are on the fence with Prey. Either they loved it or they hated it. I
Mhm.
absolutely loved Prey this year.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, I think that it kind of went back to the roots. Oh, there it is. See,
Yep.
it went back to the roots of what the Predator movies were,
Mhm.
and I just thought it was cool. That wasn't a veteran Predator. You know what I mean? Like it was a
Yep.
young Predator, and I'm a big fan of the Alien Predator, both of the franchises.
Heck
Um,
yeah.
and to see the Predator back, and that was part of the reason why I said, "What a year for Hulu." You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
they did this. This was something I went into like, all right, I'm gonna check it out. It's on Hulu, and yeah, there was
Mhm.
some CGI that was kind of like, you know, but at the end of the day, man, like when Prey was over, I was like, I'll take that, man. Like that was fantastic.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, man. When we saw Prey, and we're huge Predator fans. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I watched the original Predator with my little brother, with my parents and without, as
Yeah.
a kid. Um, so, this movie has a lot to live up to, as all the sequels had.
Mhm.
And I think they killed it. It was a home run for me. I loved it so much. Coriander loved this movie so much. We had a great discussion on that film. And it really it gave me hope again because and by the way, some of you guys that are newer to the channel may not know it, but we've gone through each Predator movie. We talked about each one, including Prey. We got a playlist for it. But with The Predator, there was so much hope when that movie came out because you got Shane Black directing it, who was in the original movie. So you're thinking, and he's a very talented writer and so forth. And obviously writing things like Lethal Weapon, and so like he has a pedigree.
Yeah.
And The Predator had so many missed opportunities, which, we talked about it in that episode. But so with Prey, I was nervous. I was nervous before I saw it. I'm like, please, can we get the Predator franchise back on track, or at least have a final film that we can say, damn, that was good? I thought they did it. They brought it back to the roots.
Yeah.
um the characters, you rooted for the characters. There wasn't any wacky side plot lines that didn't go anywhere like in The Predator.
Yeah.
It was great. It was great. So I'm glad you mentioned that because I think it definitely it got a lot of attention, rightly so.
Yeah.
And if they plan to do anything more in that lane, that journey, so to speak, I'm up for it, man. That's what Alien needs to do,
Yeah.
because they got to take some notes from Prey as far as how you can take a long-standing franchise that's 35 years old and still inject some freshness into it. So,
And
anyways,
make it relevant again. You know what I
make it
mean? Like
relevant.
that's a thing too. And one of the things, and
Mhm.
very CGI heavy scene, but I love the whole back and forth with the bear. You know
Yes,
what I mean? Like
that was
that.
cool.
I mean, dude, what kind of dog is that? I want that dog. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like he would sit here next to me doing these shows. Like that dog
Right.
was freaking awesome. It got the bear. Like, oh, come on, man.
That was
Yeah,
cool, man. They did some cool shit. There's
I
no doubt.
loved Prey.
Me too, man. Me too. Ty saying I appreciate Scream 5 more at the end of the year, maybe because I'm hyped for 6, but I think 5 aged well for not even being a year old. Yeah, I could definitely see that. Um it's definitely a good Scream movie, and that's one thing about that franchise is all the movies are at a very high level. And I think it was good, but I'm definitely very hyped for 6. Ronan saying Prey was so good. Um, that bear jacked the Pret up for a second. Yeah, right? Yes. That was a
Yeah,
good scene, man.
you could
Truly,
see
truly was.
the green in the water. It's like,
Yes.
oh, like okay.
Yes. It was very, very cool. I was impressed, man. I was so impressed. Um, but for me, I echo a lot of your statements too, as far as the black phone. That was a very pleasant surprise. It was different. It was good. Same thing with Scream 5. Obviously, I'm a huge Scream fan. I think it was good. I wasn't a fan of Dewey the way he died, which I've talked about a lot. So I'm sure a lot of these folks have heard that. Um, but it was a good movie. I really enjoyed, especially Jenna. Jenna was just amazing. The opening scene, the opening attack, it definitely was up there. And you're talking about a franchise that really does great opening scenes. So they did some great stuff. Being the first movie to do, after we lost Wes. I think they did a good job. But I'm even more excited for what is going to happen with Scream 6 because I really feel like, and I might as well segue a little bit into that before we wrap it up here in a little bit. With that teaser trailer, I thought it was a teaser trailer that checked all the boxes. It gave you a sense of where we're at, as far as being a big city. You could hear the noise on the street, you could see the people walking around, and we saw our characters, but we didn't get anything spoiled, as far as we know. And I think it was just really, really cool, So I'm really psyched up for what can happen with Scream 6. We've got a great cast. The fact that they're bringing Kirby back is fantastic. You got Samara Weaving, and that's always a great thing. This whole idea of the ghost face mask being all jacked up, I kind of like that as far as what that could mean.
Mhm.
Um, I'm excited, man. What do you think as far as any expectations you have for Scream 6?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely gonna be different. We're going in a direction that is different for the franchise.
Mhm.
From what we understand, this will be the first one without Nev Campbell, correct? I'm
That's
correct on that
right.
one.
That's
So,
right.
well, we'll see how it goes. I mean, and I was
Yeah.
talking to Steven a little bit about this, pretty much, offline was, Jenna Ortega is either going to be fantastic for Scream or it could be bad. Like it really depends because her fame right now, she's after doing Wednesday,
Yeah.
like they
Yeah.
think that's like the number 2 show on Netflix ever
Yeah.
at this point.
Mhm.
What's that going to mean for her future in Scream? Because I'm
Mhm.
sure that she is going to get tons of offers to do a lot of different things. If
Mhm.
Scream can hang on to her, I mean they've got somebody good there, and I mean she's
Yeah.
young too.
That's right. Yep,
So
absolutely. Well, I will say this, and again on this channel, I've talked about the Nev situation ad nauseum, so I won't get too deep into that. I am a huge Nev Campbell fan. I'm a huge Sidney Prescott fan, but just like the conversations we've had about Jamie Lee Curtis and Halloween, when you have characters um, that are so integral to a movie's essence, that can be a strength and it also can be a disadvantage. And, all that being said, it's going to be interesting to see this movie happen without Sydney, as far as we know.
mhm,
But I think it's maybe about as good of a situation that the filmmakers could be in, because partly what you just said with Jenna running away, with her fame. I mean, that's going to bring in so many eyes. So
yeah,
that's good news for the film. You've got Samara Weaving, who has a huge following, and she's done great things. And you're bringing back Kirby. So this movie definitely has the ingredients to do well at the box office, which I hope it does. And it looks like Radio Silence is really trying to go down their own lane. They respected Wes in 5, which
mhm,
was the right thing to do. That's what you're supposed to do. Respect who's come before you. And I think they did a good job at trying to do that. Now it's time for them to go down their own path and hopefully set up the franchise for a good future. And to
yeah,
do that, you've got to start injecting your own vibe into it and so forth. And I think being in New York, shout out to Jason Takes Manhattan, but I think being in New York, it gives you so many possibilities. And in that teaser trailer, seeing that scene where you see all those ghost face killers on the train, on the subway, and then of course what happens with Mindy. I just think it's amazing. It's awesome. That's the type of shit they wanted to do with Jason Takes Manhattan, but they didn't have the budget, you
right,
know. And yeah, and I know you know a lot about that. But so
yeah,
Scream looks like they're gonna be able to pay off that debt, so to speak, for all of us horror fans that wanted to see, a New York City that is being taken over by a horror icon.
yeah. I
So I'm
mean
I'm excited.
that's fantastic. When I first heard it was like, Ghostface is going to New York some months ago.
Hmm.
My first comment I made was they're not taking a boat there, are they? Like that's all I could think about. Like, we're
Right.
not taking a boat there, are we?
You know what? I mean, and it's funny, man, because and we talked about Jason Takes Manhattan. And I love it for what it is. I mean, but they didn't have the money. They had to shoot in Vancouver, except for the one scene in Times Square. And they wanted it to be 70% in New York, 30% on the boat. And they really they flipped that around because they just didn't have the money.
Right.
So and even in the teaser trailer, you see someone dressed up like Jason. You see a lot of Easter eggs.
Oh
But I
yeah,
was I was glad that they showed Jason in there just to kind of tip the cap to who came before. So I'm excited about it. I think it's gonna. I think it has a really strong possibility to be very, very good, better than five, um, and that's good news for horror. You know,
yeah.
Jack was saying the same thing, having high hopes for six. Yeah, yeah, Virgo saying the same thing. I think most of us are really, looking forward to what Radio Silence can bring, to this new movie. Yeah. T. Parker saying, "Oh, this is interesting. I thought Scream 5 was so much better than 3 and 4." Ooh, wow. Dominic's in the chat. What's up, Dominic? Good to see you. Yeah. Dominic saying, "No spoilers, only a teaser. That's what teasers are supposed to do. The marketing people did good on that." I agree. They did a great job with it. No doubt. No doubt at all. Neil saying, "I've been listening while putting together shelves for the horror cave and just wanted to say I've really enjoyed your discussions." Hey man, thanks so much, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I take
definitely.
I take that as a high compliment, man, because like I said, Neil, you definitely know your stuff and you always when you speak, I listen. So I appreciate that, bro. I really, really do.
Thanks, Neil.
Yeah. Just another horror fan saying, "Time to let go of the legacy cast and move forward. The torch should have fully been passed in Scream 5." Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at some point you have to make a decision, right? Um, but it's so tough because see the difference with Scream versus, Halloween and Nightmare and Friday and Chucky is that Scream isn't focused on Ghostface. It's focused
No,
on the characters.
right.
You know, whereas with our other horror icons, it's focused on the horror icons. I mean, yes, you have great characters like Nancy in Nightmare, Heather Langenkamp, of course. You got great characters in Friday. You got great characters, obviously Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween, but it's Michael's franchise. Let's just be
Right.
real. But with Scream, they have a more challenging task because those movies were built on Dewey, Sydney, and Gail, and,
Yeah.
and and the other folks like Randy and Stu and so forth and so forth. So, like I said, it's interesting watching this all unfold before us, and it's
Yeah.
going to be really the one thing I will say is I don't want them to kill Gail in six because if they do that, I'm gonna start getting nightmare, memories from Star Wars where we're gonna kill legacy characters in every movie, and I
Yeah.
don't want to see that.
Yeah.
We can move on. We don't have to kill them all. You're right.
Right. We don't have to kill them all to move on. Like it's
Right.
yeah.
Some people can survive and live out the rest of their natural lives, But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how they move, from the past. And I do think that six and presumably seven, which will be like its own trilogy. I do think that it's a great way to do that, to tie everything up. Um, I know some people are speculating about the ghost face and the mask. Is it someone connected to Roman? Is it Stu coming back and this and that? I think whoever it is, and I think you could make an argument for all of them, but whoever it is, I think it's a way that by the end of seven, you can tie up this whole thing, all seven movies. You obviously Dewey's gone, unfortunately.
Mm,
You can let Gail do her thing, and maybe Sydney is, with her family. Who knows? We don't know what's going to happen with Nev and Seven. But they can tie up this whole thing in a nice, neat way, and then presumably, when other movies are made, they can have their own life. You know,
yeah.
and I think that's the way it should go. I really do. So that's my thing on six and presumably seven. Um, as we get ready to wrap up here, Philip saying the 80s, it's still at 77%. Holy crap. Man. Well, I guess it's a runaway. I mean, I'm an 80s, believer. Um, that's what I would vote for because I just think there was just so many great movies, standout movies. But again, I realize the 70s were great, 60s, 90s, and 2000s, like DeRay was saying earlier. But when I think of the 80s, man, this will be the last thing I'll throw out there. When I think of the 80s, The Shining, The Thing, Friday the 13th, The Fly, you know, and I know I'm
Nightmare.
missing Nightmare. Yes, thank you. Nightmare.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, holy crap. You know what I mean? Carpenter was on fire in the 80s. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just so many great movies in the 80s for horror, Hellraiser, you know.
Mhm.
So I just got to go with the 80s. And that doesn't include, and I know I haven't named them all. I was just naming some off the top of my head, but that doesn't include so many other great movies and good movies. There were some crappy ones, of course, because
Yeah.
this is where horror just catapulted, right? But there were a lot of movies that were good horror movies that don't get talked about. You know what I mean? So that's what I think of when I think about 80s horror, and that's why, me personally, I would pick that as my favorite decade or the best decade of horror.
Yeah. I mean, I agree completely.
Yeah. Yep. Um, Dominic saying there's so much you can do with the Scream universe. It's not always about Sydney. There are other people that are killed by ghost faces around the world that are inspired by the original Scream. Absolutely. The mythology can be endless, which is a strength that hopefully they will explore. That's what yeah. Just another orifice and Gen X hitting that pole hard. Right? Yes, indeed.
A little bit of truth to that, I'm sure.
It is. Where anyone in the chat, if you want to throw it up, where is the poll at? So I know they said the 80s is still at like 77%. I'm not gonna lie, man. I thought that the 70s or the 90s would have, had a higher number, you know. Jack saying, "Come on, Night. Gail wants to meet her old pal Dewey in heaven." I don't want to see her die though, man. I just don't. I truly don't. But they might. And Phillips said they better not touch Gail, right? T. Parker saying, I hope in 6, Gail gets her first phone call and gets another iconic chase scene, perhaps in her morning show studio this time. Yeah, I mean, look, it's all right there for them to do, right? I mean, she's at her studio. You could have some great stuff going on there. She should get the phone call, I think. Um, and my idea of it is, and I've talked about it in live streams, and I've got some videos I'm working on, is she gets the phone call in the beginning. There's no attack, right? And no kill, but there's tension in the phone call, and there's things being alluded to, and that could be a great way, not only for her as a character, but to do that opening scene in a different way, that's fresh, but you could still have fun with it, and Roger L. Jackson can have his moments, with his dialogue. So that's what I think would be a great way, to do that in 6. Hey, Michael's jumping in. What's going on? All right. Why can't Gail die? She can. She definitely can. I just think that if they kill Dewey in 5 and they kill kill Gail in 6, I just think it's just too it's just, to me, it just is too bad, that you don't have to move on from characters by killing them, you know. But they might. Who knows? They might. But I wasn't a fan of it in Star Wars, that's for sure. It's like, all right,
Yeah, we
man.
lost what? There were 3 movies. We lost all 3.
We lost all 3. It's like, all right, guys, come on. Let's Does everyone have to die?
I know, it's like for if you're an 80s kid, all your icons are dying. It's like the thing that scares me about the new Indiana Jones movie coming up. Are they gonna kill Indy too?
Right?
You know what I mean? Like, is he gonna
Yeah.
die? Is there no
Right.
happily ever after? Like they gave us, in the 80s that if you did this and you do this, you can be the hero, and then you ride off into the sunset.
Yes.
And it's like,
Yes.
oh, we're gonna bring him back in your 40s and kill him.
Yep.
It's like, what?
It's
Why?
like,
Why would you
geez.
do that to me?
Right, right, right. Exactly, man. Ronan saying this has been a great stream as usual. Thanks for the good time, night, and community. Yeah, thank you too. We appreciate it, seriously. T Parker saying, if Gail or Kirby dies, then that's my Ghostface origin story. Yeah, I don't want Gail to die. I really don't. I don't want Kirby to die either. But there's theories out there. So, but anyways, guys, we're gonna get ready to wrap up here. Thank all of you guys for hanging out with us. This has been a really fun conversation. It's been a lot of great comments in the live chat. You guys have been awesome. Michael, thank you so much for jumping in here, man. Because you know, um, y- that wasn't planned, but like you said, you had the
Oh,
day off, so
yeah,
that
man.
was cool.
Anytime,
Yeah.
dude.
Very, very cool. And again, for you guys that are in the live chat, or if you're watching this on replay, go over to Michael's channel, Movies and Beyond. Go there, subscribe to him, show him some love. He's really, really awesome. The link was in the live chat, but it's also going to be in the description of this video. So go over there and subscribe to him. You will not be disappointed. And who knows, you'll probably see me over there sometimes, and he's over here a lot. So yeah.
Definitely.
Val, thank you so much for doing all that you do. You're awesome, and I hope you have a great day. Let's see. And Jamie, catch you later as well. Jack, catch you later. All right. So, anyways, we will catch you guys later. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Night Watch. Peace.